What is going on, everybody? Hey, if you can hear me, if you can see me, give me a little thumbs up in the chat. Lots of setup on this one. Lots of good technical setup. We got some help. Soda Monte behind the scenes, setting everything up for us. We got William Faucher, and I might be butchering the last name a little bit. He's joining us today. We're gonna be creating awesome stuff in Unreal Engine. Yes, he is compiling shaders at the moment. So we are going to be creating a industrial scene because that's this week's weekly challenge prompt, and we're going to do it probably in like 2 hours or so. We're going to see what we can do in Unreal Engine. But sweet, we got some thumbs ups. It's good to see y'all. It's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've streamed, and I am so glad that I am joined by such a wonderful guest. Let's switch over. Let's see what's going on. William, what's up, dude?
How's it going?
It's going very well. It is going very well. Man, thank you so much for joining me. This is such a treat and such an honor to have you on this stream. Your tutorials are my favorite. They're so good. They're so freaking good.
Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for people who don't know, William puts together the best Unreal Engine tutorials on YouTube, in my opinion. Like, there's a lot of great ones out there, but over the last like 3 months, I discovered your YouTube channel, and it's absolutely incredible. Let me just see. Like, I'm gonna pull it up here to show people. William, how did you get into 3D and VFX? How long ago was it for you?
I'd say it was about, I think it goes all the way back to something like 2004, 2005 or something. I was very young. I was just a kid, and, obviously like most, early teen, big into gaming, love video games. And, it was at that time where like, hey, I want to make games. And how do you do that? I'm in high school, and, I'm sure you probably had this in school, but we have like these orientation courses where you meet up with someone. It's like, hey, like, what do you want to do when you grow up and you get older? Where you want to go to college? That sort of thing. So I told them, like, hey, I want to make video games, and they basically just laughed at me. They're just like, oh, you can't do that. You have to be an engineer or a doctor or a dentist or whatever.
Oh,
and you know how it is, right? Like, they're trying to encourage people to go to higher education. And at the time, I wanted to be a concept artist. I love drawing, painting, that sort of thing. And they said, like, oh no, like, concept art, that's not a thing. So when I was maybe 14 or something, I found, what was it, like it was a book at the bookstore called Introduction to Maya 4.5 or something. It was like a really, really old version of Maya. And that was kind of my entry into 3D. That's kind of where I discovered, what a vertice was, what polygons are, and how to, I pretty much fried my parents' computer at the time with that, because they just had a typical family computer that was not made for doing 3D at all. And that was kind of my first glimpse into 3D. And I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And I've always been pretty artistic throughout my whole life, where, like I said earlier, I was into drawing, painting. So, 3D was kind of like a natural transition into just furthering my art, I guess, and loved it ever since. And so fortunately, there was a school in my hometown that specialized in game art. And so I signed up and got accepted. It was a 1-year program, but it was a for-profit school, and it was really a bad school. It was pretty terrible. Where so to this day, I prefer to say that I'm self-taught. But
same.
Technically, it was that bad. So it was the type of school where they charged an exorbitant amount of money, and the teachers were basically former students that they hired. So like, oh, hey, you graduated from our school, you want to teach? It's like, so that's kind of how that went. So you can expect, you get an idea of how that turned out. So it was not the.
A question we get all the time is, do you have to go to school to work in the 3D VFX industry? Do you need a degree?
Absolutely not. No. Like I said, I'm pretty much self-taught. I learned most of what I know today, either on the job or online with the internet. Like now, especially nowadays, there is more content than I know what to do with. Like, there is so much amazing free content online nowadays. It's just absolutely amazing. Whether it's YouTube, where you can find stuff on Gumroad, or like now even like Unreal now has awesome documentation They have their own courses as well. Like, so they have Unreal Online Learning, so they're making their own courses as well to teach you how to use Unreal. But long story short, no, you do not need a degree. But I would say it depends on the person. I think some people learn really well under that academic, having that academic pressure on them. So if you're, it can really help to go to school and have someone push you, have a mentor push you in the right direction. And on top of that, you have the added benefit of getting, you get the networking as well. There's pros and cons to both. So if you don't have the money for it, then that's okay. You don't need a degree to get a job in CG. You really don't.
Man, that's so true. That's literally exactly what I say. It's like school is good for people who need the structure and who want to meet contacts. Yeah. Not that you can't do that on your own. You just, I guess, would need to have a little bit more self-motivation to push yourself to.
Agreed.
To do it. But here's the thing, all of us here, I would assume that most of us here on this stream are here because we love doing 3D. We love doing visual effects. We love being creative, and the hobby and the spark is already there,
Yep. Totally.
So just roll with it, for everyone out there who's just having a blast, keep having a blast, keep loving it, and these streams and, both of our channels, right, are geared towards helping people learn and grow and get inspired and not get stuck when they're having to troubleshoot stuff, because troubleshooting is
part of the job, right? I mean, that's kind of what that's what sets really good artists from great artists. I think someone who knows how to solve problems and is a quick troubleshooter, that's where they really stand out. And so you don't have to be the best artist in the whole world to get a job. You just need two things. You need to be able to problem solve quickly and come up with solutions quickly, and B, also know how to deal with people. Because I've met amazing artists, like some of the best artists I know, but they have to work alone. They're basically lone wolves. They cannot work as a team because they're complete jerks, basically. And I'm sorry, especially in an industry where you have to work with other people, you need to know how to deal with other people. And the industry is really small, so don't be a dick, because it's going to bite you in the butt. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, just don't be a dick regardless,
No, for sure.
Be a good person. And that's why, I mean, man, just meeting you and chatting with you since the last video I did, the last breakdown I did, I was on your channel constantly learning stuff. You helped me out so much with that. And then even person to person, you're like, hey, here's some secret console commands. Try these. And I was like, oh my God, this is the good stuff. Thank you so much. You're a great guy. You're very nice, man. And it goes a long way. Yeah. No one's gonna hang out with people who are just stingy and jaded and all that stuff. But we have so many questions, and we have art to make today. But before we get into all of that good stuff, I am so excited for today's sponsor. It's AMD, and y'all just hang tight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, and we'll be right back. We'll ask more questions to William. We got we got community questions, and we got art to make. So back in just a second. Hang tight. Today's stream is brought to you by AMD, the leader in processor technology for 3D and VFX artists. Whether you're creating 3D worlds in Unreal Engine, Blender, or Cinema 4D, or compositing complex VFX shots in After Effects or Fusion, a high-grade processor will only make your life easier and your 3D VFX workflows smoother. So your CPU is measured by three main attributes. You have cores, clock speed, and threads. Cores are essentially the workers assigned to computational tasks. Clock speed is a measure of how fast those workers work, and threads basically determine how many tasks each worker can complete at once. Certain 3D tasks are considered lightly threaded, like animation, simulation, and modeling, and benefit from a high clock speed, whereas other tasks like rendering or editing high-res footage utilize all the cores and threads your CPU has. And AMD's Threadripper Pro series offers a wide range of chips to balance these workflows. Now, I recently upgraded my workstation and specifically went for the AMD Ryzen Threadripper 3970X and could not be happier. Chips like these are an investment, no doubt, but will greatly increase your productivity and output. So click the link in the description to check out AMD's chips and consider them for your next upgrade. All right. Yeah, check out that link in the description. Very good stuff. No joke, I do have an AMD processor and I love it. They make really solid stuff, very, very solid stuff. I have a video coming out in a couple weeks here, basically right on Thanksgiving weekend, going into how to build a computer, all the parts that go into a computer, and things to look out for when you're building one. So it's actually a perfect sponsor. Really excited to have them. Yeah, let's jump back in. So I'm on William's ArtStation right now, and I just want to show you a little bit of his work. Like, this stuff is incredible. He's got tutorials for all of this stuff, man. They're so good. And god dang, this is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
So for the record, this is not an Unreal. This was rendered in Arnold. So it's an offline renderer, so it's not real time. Just just making that clear.
This is amazing. Very beautiful. So you started in games and then transitioned to VFX, is that?
That's correct. Yeah. So so for the first 5 or so years of my career, I started in games. So it was a small indie studio in Montreal, and great learning experience. And then, but after 5 years, I think I kind of outgrew the place. And actually, at that point, right when I left the games industry, I was kind of on the cusp of just quitting 3D entirely. I was fed up. I was like, okay, tired of the crunch. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Went traveling for 3-4 months, came back, and then you know how it is. Like, I got that ZBrush itch that just kind of came back. Like, I kind of want to. It's nice to get paid to sculpt stuff all day. I do miss that. So then, kind of got back into games for another year or so, and then I went traveling again. And after that, I kind of made my way into VFX. I was trying to find a job abroad. I wanted to leave Montreal because I grew up about 2 hours in Montreal, but spent most of my adult life in Montreal. And then I, found a job in Norway, which is where I live now. And it just so happened that this was for a VFX studio called Storm Studios, and they needed someone with Unreal experience for a project that they had. So they were doing this kind of like half VFX, half game, half real time type of thing.
Yeah.
And so it was a perfect job for me. Like, it was kind of my way into VFX, and because I think it can be a little bit hard to break into VFX when you only have a games background, because the bar quality that you need is just that much higher in film as opposed to games. So fortunately, that was my way in, and so we worked on that project for about a year, and then they just kind of kept me on, and we started working on. I think my first film I worked on was Black Panther, so that was a lot of fun. That was a great learning experience as well. And so then I stayed at Storm for another 5 years or so, and I would say that those 5 years have been the greatest learning experience of my entire career. Like, working in film, like I said, it really raises that bar of quality, and it just, because people are just like nitpicking, pixel peeping your frames, and every single frame of your renders constantly, every single day, and you meet. It's a very different. It's not harder or easier. It's a very different level of quality that you need to attain. And so people are really nitpicking, like, hey, like, these pixels are kind of, you got to fix that or fix this. And I've always been a bit of a generalist. So I've been, I started off working in, like I said, in game, but doing modeling, texturing, in VFX. Like, they realized that I'm able to do, modeling, texturing, look dev. And for those who don't know what look dev is, it stands for look development. So basically doing shading, like all the more complex shader networks, and lighting as well. Did a bit of animation. So I kind of done a bit of everything. And then they even threw me into comp at one point, doing compositing work. And again, awesome learning experience, because I love, tearing apart and figuring out, like, okay, how do people do this? How do people achieve this kind of result? And eventually you kind of realize how all those pieces of the puzzle fit together in a nice little package. And that's the whole spirit of VFX. There's so much more than just lighting and nice models. It's just the compositing, the color work that goes on top of that after, the editing, the music, the whole package. And so, so I've always been very passionate about just art in general, and I've kind of been like a one-man army, so to speak. So
yeah, same.
Especially coming from games and now going into film, the direction that Unreal is going in now, like those two worlds are converging, and it really has helped. Having a background in games really helped me, make sense of Unreal, because I've been using Unreal since 2008 or something. So
that's crazy, man.
So now,
that's nuts.
It was not what it is today. I'll just leave it at that. So in 2008, it would have been Unreal Engine 3, and after that, it came, like the UDK came out. So UDK meaning like Unreal Development Kit. And back then, dynamic lighting was not really a thing. I mean, it kind of was, but it looked terrible. And then you had the bake lighting for everything, and that was a time-consuming process. So the Unreal has come so far in the past 3 or 4 years alone. It's not even close to what it used to be. So things are easier than ever to use. Still has its quirks, as I'm sure you found out when you were working on your thing.
Oh my goodness, man! It's such like a love-hate thing, because it's so complicated. Sometimes the program is ridiculously complicated, and there's so many things. Like, my goodness, I probably only know 1% of the program. Like, I
mean, there's so much to it. It started off as a game engine. And yet, I don't think the developers in their wildest dreams ever expected Unreal to be used on feature films like it is now. I don't think they ever expected Unreal to be used on the set of The Mandalorian, for example.
No, not when. No, there's no way. It's like it's a game. It's for making games.
Yeah.
But now everyone realizes and I think I'm sure you are paving the way for this, is all of your stuff here, making Unreal Cinematic. This video right here is so good. It's so good, man.
Thanks.
You get into all of it, and you go through what makes it cinematic. You go through frame rate. You go through all the stuff, and it's you're paving the way for this kind of stuff, and for these people who want their art to look like a movie and not like a game. It's
hard to do in a game engine. It's that's the thing. There's a lot of like you said, there's a lot of things that are just complicated. I wouldn't say complicated is the wrong word. I think the better word is unconventional. I think they did things in a way that made sense for the developers at the time, but I don't know. I wasn't working at Epic, so I'm not going to presume. But my guess, my uneducated guess is, I don't think they had any film or VFX artists on on staff, right? So they just kind of did what made sense then for them, but then that's not how we do it in film. Stuff there's so many things like that. Render passes, for example. Now we are starting to get object IDs and stuff, which is cool, but there's still so many things. It's why?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an interesting topic, because we actually do have a question from 3D Gala on the Discord server, and they're asking, will there be a more, I'll read it verbatim. Will Unreal Engine become more artist friendly and have a non-game dev version in the future? At the moment, a lot of things in Unreal are extremely complicated, tedious to do, or just crowded, and I'm guessing this is because Unreal was created for game dev. Yes. What do you think?
I think there's a bit of a I have two answers to that. So I think there's a bit of a learning curve with any application ever. When you're used to working in one program and you kind of shift over to something new, there's going to be a learning curve. And the things that were so easy, for example, when I went from 3ds Max to Maya, because 3ds Max is what we use in games and ArchViz, and then when I went from that,
sorry to cut you off. Are you got Unreal open?
I do.
All right, let's switch over.
Cool. So when you have when you're used to its program, I would work in 3ds Max and then went over into Maya, there are so many things in Maya that was just what the crap? What is this? This makes no sense. This is stupid. It was so much easier in 3ds Max, and so there's a learning curve, right? There's a process of you have to get used to a different way of thinking. There's a new philosophy. There's a whole design philosophy difference between from one app to another. You go from Maya to Blender. Again, I can't. I've tried picking a Blender and I just couldn't because navigation is all weird, and like just getting used to the rotating, panning around the camera with the middle mouse key. It's like,
Yeah, I equate it to like someone breaks into your house and goes through all your crap and puts them in different drawers, and like
yeah,
it even shifts the rooms around it. You wake up in the kitchen, you're like, what the heck? Where am I? This is my kitchen, but I went to bed in my bedroom, and like you start going, okay, well, I guess I'll take a shower, and then like your towels are stuffed under like your car in the driveway or something, and you're like,
yep.
I don't know where anything is. I know what I want to do, but I don't know where anything is.
No, that's exactly it, and it's super frustrating at first because like and like so that kind of brings me to my next point. So yes, there's a learning curve, and a lot of things are really complicated in Unreal. But I think a lot of that has just to do with the fact that like you got to relearn a new application. Like that's just regardless of what tool you use, there's going to be that painful process of relearning how to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it takes me about a week, like 1 week of dedicated production work. You can pick up any tool. Of course, you're not going to be like the best, but you'll at least be able to walk. You're going to be able to create something within a week.
Because you start crawling. You start at a crawl, and you're just, I can't move. But then, you look up everything on YouTube. You got your stuff on YouTube. Look it up. And like, there's just tutorials for everything. And yes, so you get to the point where you're walking, and then what?
And then, and after that, then there's also the fact that I'm not going to lie, like I love Unreal, but there are a lot of things that are very unconventional. There's things that just are done a certain way in film. And for a film artist to come into Unreal, they're just like, what is this? Why is this all like this? Things yep. like, just dealing with Alembic files. It's gotten a lot better now, but for a while, like Alembic was just totally broken. It barely worked, and things didn't shade properly or deform properly, and it's just really, really annoying. And then there's the whole rendering aspect, because it's real time. So at least Sequencer was almost more like of a sequencer. Like, so you use Sequencer, right? So
yeah.
Sequencer basically is Unreal's kind of timeline and everything. So it's where you're going to trigger all your events. It's where you're going to set up your keyframes and everything. We're going to load your animations. And Sequencer would essentially, if you wanted to render out those frames, render out your shot, it would essentially package the whole thing and play an executable game and screen record that.
Oh
and so that's essentially what's happening. It's doing like play in editor mode. It's creating an executable thing in a new window, and it's recording that at the desired resolution. And it's fine. It works great, and it looks great. It's real time. It's quick and snappy. But the problem is, because of the real-time nature of things, you're never going to get the exact same render twice. So, this is just a complete, like, messes up your brain for any VFX artists or anyone working from offline renderers to this, because an offline renderer is, if you have the same settings, same everything, you hit the render button, you're going to get the same render twice.
Yeah.
And that's super important, because sometimes they want to make just a change to the lighting and not to change to the geo, and those masks. Like this is really important for compositors with masks and stuff, because they need those edges to be perfect every single time. Mm-hmm. But in Unreal, it's going to be slightly different, because there's like temporal anti-aliasing on that, so there's like that jitteriness. So your edges are always going to be kind of messed up, and this is kind of a pain for compositors, right? So there's a lot of things like that are just really, like I said, unconventional. And so to kind of segue back into the question, I don't work for Epic, so I can't say if there's going to be like a non-game dev version in the future. I think the good thing now is that Epic is aware that there's a massive demand for, offline rendering stuff, or, I know it's real time, but, there's a lot of people using this for, on film sets and stuff. So yes, there's a whole other user base that I don't think they ever anticipated to have using Unreal now. So maybe, hopefully, they'll cater to people using Unreal for that purpose.
Yeah, hopefully. because it's, I mean, yeah, it was on. They used it for Mandalorian. Like the whole virtual wall stuff is going up. So like, it'd be cool. I don't know. Like maybe, who knows? Maybe it'd be like DaVinci where there's like a color tab, a cut tab,
Yeah.
a delivery tab, and like you can go into film. Or I mean, they have like the templates at the beginning when you start your project file, but isn't that just like toggling on certain plugins?
Essentially, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah. So I hope that they have. Yeah, I would love to see like a more like a streamlined, like just rendering only part of Unreal.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I have no idea what they plan on doing. And from what I've seen in UE5, like things are more or less exactly the same as in UE4. Like the way you work is pretty much the same. That hasn't really changed that much.
It's
Have
man,
you were you using UE5 or 4 when in your project there?
I was using 4 in that last project I did, that music video. That was Unreal 4. I'm in Unreal 5 right now, and man, I gotta say, like, it's so much easier to get things looking beautiful because it just happens immediately. Whereas,
Oh yeah,
like Unreal 4, you have to kind of like do everything manually. You have to add everything manually, but it's not a bad thing. Like you certainly learn how it's built and how it's composed, like global
Sure.
illumination, the bounce lighting, all the ray traced, all everything. But in
Yeah.
Unreal 5, like that stuff happens automatically, and it's so satisfying to like
Oh sure. The
to
lighting. I mean, lighting a lumen alone is just so awesome. It's really great to get that kind of just easy. Like you don't
like
even have to think about it
it's crazy. Like the bounce light on this is like it's insane.
for sure.
Oh man, it's like it gets me so excited because I love the idea of. I mean, it's kind of like the Ian Hubert approach where you have photo scans and they look pretty darn real, and
Yep.
you combine that. So Ian obviously is in Blender, um, but I would love to kind of test out that approach in Unreal. Drop in a bunch of photo scans. I'm doing a lot of photo scanning these
Oh yeah.
days, and
Yep.
like just with Unreal 5, the lighting is perfect. Everything just looks so nice, and you like the more you can create without troubleshooting, the better. You're gonna have
Yep.
to troubleshoot no matter what, but like
For sure.
the goal is to get rid of all the googling, all the searching, all the digging through menus, and you just want to like close your eyes and see what you're seeing in your head and put it onto the screen as fast as possible and have it look as good as possible. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just saying, like Unreal 5, like it's exciting. It's exciting.
For sure. It definitely like I haven't even been using UE5 that much myself. I've been in UE4 purely for performance reasons.
Mhm.
And just because when I'm dealing with clients, like they need what's the word? Like they needed things to be more stable. Like they can't really afford to just to have the latest and greatest tool. They need something that's reliable, like just a reliable workhorse, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure, for sure.
so that's why like UE4 is just kind of the way to go for now. Um, and I'm just uncomfortable in UE4. I have no issues with it, and like I've already troubleshooted all those issues. Like there's no more or not much googling for me at this point,
Yeah.
right? So so I gotten like all that junk out of the way. But like I've had to learn that the hard way. Like it wasn't an easy thing to do. It was all my tutorials, all of them, or the vast majority of them, like all those like small issues, like that the field issues and all the like the small little bugs, the fog, all that stuff. Those are all things that I had to find out the hard way when I had a project due in 3 hours and my renders were coming through, right? I've been there. It's I know what it's like. So I figured I was a bit reluctant at first to what's the word, to to tell the whole world about all these things, because I'm like, hey, like I kind of learned all these things myself.
Mm.
I want to kind of keep this to myself. Like this is it's my hard work,
Oh,
right?
really?
My
Interesting.
baby.
Yeah. Okay.
That was my first reaction. This was before I made my channel, right?
Yeah.
And then and then slowly, about a month or two before I made my channel, a former VFX supervisor of mine asked me to make a course. Like, hey, we know you know Unreal, so would you like to make What's the word? Would you like to make a course on Unreal and world building in general? I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? So that was kind of, it was a paid gig. And so that's kind of what made me get like the microphone, get the webcam, get the whole thing set up. And so I got that out of the way. And then, I had all the equipment and I figured like, hey, why don't maybe I'll try this YouTube thing just for fun. And then I started, had my first stream, had my first video go out, and it grew relatively quickly.
Amazing.
And that's when I realized, like, hey, like if I don't share all these tips to the world, someone else is. So I might as well take credit for it. So that was kind of
yeah. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and I'm so glad, and we all are, that you have shared that with us, because man, it's so good. It's so good. Quick shout outs are due. We got Visual, we got Ronan, Sodamonte, of course. We got MDK up in here. All the moderators from the Discord server are hanging out with us. It's a good time. It's a nice little reunion. It's been a minute since I live streamed, William, I'm really happy that you're my first guest back into the live streams. I slowed down. I posted a video maybe a month or so ago talking about how I need to slow down because I'm burning out. I gotta like I said, I'm going rock climbing after this for like 9 hours straight. I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome. Like,
oh man,
it's a good day. We get to make some art together, and then I get to go rock climbing. I just need more balance in my life, so it helps to slow down a bit. How's your workload, man? Sure. Are you crunched like crazy? Are you going on full steam ahead, or are you taking breaks? You got hobbies that you do or anything?
It's been a rough year. So I started a YouTube channel last December, so it's been almost a year, not quite. It'll be a year in early December. And so I was doing that. I was pumping out one video every week, plus a full-time job, and then plus a few like consultation gigs on top of that as well. And then just in the spring, I realized like, hey, I think I can try going full-time freelance.
Yeah.
And just because I've been working for someone else for too long, and I figured like, hey, Nick, now's the time. I think I have this opportunity, with YouTube going well. I'm just gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna take a bet on myself for a change, and fingers crossed, and just like, what's the worst that can happen, right? And so I quit my job and started going freelance, and so that's been kind of my main thing since the summer, as of July, and it's been busy. It's been good. It's a good problem to have. I can't complain. And but like I've been doing like making courses for Epic. I've been teaching as well. YouTube has kind of taken the back burner just because like I was doing one video every week, but now like there's just too much to do. And I'm like, okay, I need to prioritize, and I was already working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. So I'm like, okay, I think YouTube's gonna take I'll pump out one video a month instead of one a week. So
that's like kind of what I'm doing. I'm like, I gotta do one a month. I could do one a month. Your last video was great, by the way. The little like how to save a bunch of gigs on your hard drive.
That blew my mind. Like that was just something I saw on Twitter. I'm like, wait, what? That's a thing?
Yeah, I did that immediately.
No idea. And
it's solid.
Good times for sure. But but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I was going to tell everybody what we're doing. So, for those of you who don't know, which is probably all of you because I didn't say it yet. So what we're doing today is we're doing the weekly challenge prompt. It's industrial. So we're both creating whatever industrial means to us. We're creating that on the stream, and the goal is to get it done before we're done, before the stream is up.
Cool.
I'll probably go till like 2:00 at the latest, so we have a good chunk of time here to hang out and create art together. So that's what we're doing. The weekly challenge is available to anyone, to everyone. There's a Discord link in the description, and it's not the entire Discord server, but it is the weekly challenge, a help channel, a general channel, and if you win the weekly challenge, then it unlocks the whole Discord for you for 1 week, and it's like everything, even the Patreon stuff, everything gets opened up completely. obviously, we're doing this. Like we can't win our own contest here, but we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna create some cool stuff. So, William, do you have any idea of what you're gonna create for this industrial?
Probably some. I kind of want to go for like kind of a like a typical industrial look, but something like more cleaner, bit of a cleaner industrial look. Like I don't know if you, I mean, surely you know Peter McKinnon, right?
Oh yeah.
So his photos are, I mean, he's a great photographer. Love his stuff, and he kind of has this kind of like clean, grungy but clean look, like really high contrast, punchy photos, and I kind of go for something like he does there. I can
Sweet.
probably show it on my screen. Maybe if I find something on his Instagram or something. But yeah, he's a great photographer. Love his stuff. Super passionate guy.
Yeah, he's great, man. I watched his like I think he's got a video or two on like either going through all the stuff in his studio, like a little studio overview. I'll switch to you full screen here.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he has like a studio overview and like where his lights are, how he sets up his mic, and I'm like, that stuff is so valuable to me because like I'm
Sure.
constantly trying to iterate on my setup here. I'm trying to mount some lights to the ceiling. I'm trying to get a little shotgun mic, a directional mic instead of this thing because I can't see my keyboard.
I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
he makes
like I
good
just
stuff.
love the stuff. It's so simple. It's nothing fancy, but it's like it's dark with these like hard hard highlights on them, like really high contrast. Stuff looks great. So I'm gonna try and kind of go for that kind of style. Probably just like some kind of parking lot or some kind of garage or something.
Cool.
Pickup truck in there. And yeah, I usually kind of wing it. Like most of my projects are I don't really I would like to say that I'm super well organized and I start off, really elaborate planning and like concept art and everything. And truth is, I don't. I'm really, really bad at that kind of stuff. I'm really bad at planning. Most of my projects, like just knowing myself, I'll start something and it's pretty rare that I see it through because I'll get bored or just be like, it's just, you know what, I'm just gonna just do something else. But it's not good. It's not a good thing. I'm not condoning this. I actually like encourage people to finish their projects as much as possible because that is how you learn. That is it doesn't matter if you have like 50 started projects because you haven't learned how to finish a thing, right? Like it's so important to see a thing through to completion. So
Yep.
I encourage people to do that. And like I'm the worst at following my own advice. So you know how it is. I'm sure it's probably the same
so
for
true.
you.
Yeah, no, it's so true. I have a few projects that are unfinished on my computer. Absolutely. I'm always like working on 2 or 3 things at once.
Yeah.
You know, so
Life
it's
gets in the way.
certainly, yeah, certainly. And I think life getting in the way is a good thing though. It can be a good thing because
Sure.
it's always balance. Like I will constantly be in a state of like trying to find balance for the rest of my life. Like I know that I will always be balancing things.
That's hard. Do you have any advice for people who do have a struggle between like a work-life balance and stuff?
Well, shoot, man, I struggle with it, and
Don't we all?
yeah, like what do I do? Okay, so here's something I learned at Camp MoGraph, which if you don't know about it, everyone should look it up. Camp MoGraph. I mean, I'm gonna be there next year. It's the greatest thing ever. Basically,
Is
everyone
that what Jonathan Winbush or?
Yeah, Winbush was there.
Okay.
Beeple was there. EJ was
What?
there. Yeah. Astronaut was
wow.
there. Man, it was the sickest thing ever. Oh my god, it was like all of us out in an actual campground for 5 days, just hanging out and like talking and creating stuff. And there was zip lines,
amazing.
archery, rock climbing. There was a lake. Like, man, it was the best. But the point I was trying to make is that there was a guy there, a speaker. It was Austin something. He's a designer, and apologies, I don't remember his last name, but he said there is what was it? Paraphrasing here. He said something along the lines of there's time that's always for sale, there's time that is sometimes for sale, and there's time that's never for sale.
Right.
And that was like so good for me. And I was like, how do I implement that into my life. And for me, I basically blocked out my day into 3 chunks, and I know that I'm not going to hit this every day. I'm not going to be perfect every day, but if I can aim for this, it'll be great. So like the first chunk of my day is spent like either mental or physical. So like a workout, bike ride, a run, meditation, yoga, tea, anything that isn't work. Like don't walk into this room before 10 o'clock. But as soon as 10 o'clock hits, I'm in here, I'm working till 6. And once that's done, once 6 o'clock hits, then it's hanging out with the fiance, watching TV, cooking, go for another walk. And those are like, that's how I am balancing my life right now.
Right.
And, over the last week or 2, it's worked out. I like it. I am a workaholic. I know that. I will sit here and work till the end of time, and I will die and rot and be a skeleton in this chair. I know that. So yeah, I have to force myself. It's tough.
I get that. I mean, it's one of those things where, like, working for a studio, it's one thing. Like, everyone hates working overtime. Everyone hates crunch. And I'm one of those people. But the thing is, it's different when you're working for yourself, because it's your thing. It's your job. It's your work. It's your clients, finally. Right? You're making middleman, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's so easy to just spend too much time in your office, and I'm super guilty of this. It's like I was very guilty of this summer. Like my girlfriend, she was, she had the summer vacation off, and I was like, yeah, sorry, I've got to work. So, I didn't even take any vacation this summer, so it was just like work. So probably not the healthiest thing, but sometimes there's a time and place for it. Sometimes it just has to be done. Especially when, if you're just starting a new company, like you kind of have to put in those hours at first to do the initial little crunch, and then you need to know when to back off.
Yeah, agreed. Running a YouTube channel, you got to keep the videos coming. It's like
you do. Yeah, you do, and that's I try to be careful about that, because at some point, like, especially with smaller channels, like YouTube doesn't pay that much. Like, it doesn't cover all my bills, so it's like I have to prioritize. Like, okay, like what is the priority here? Can I justify spending X amount of hours a month on YouTube? But of course, like the more time you do spend making content on YouTube, the more money you get. So it's kind of it's never enough, right? So it's never going to be enough, and I think we need to realize that as creators, that like, hey, like it's okay to take one for yourself. Just relax.
Yeah, it's so stressful though. It's like, oh, my life depends on this. If I don't make money, then I'm gonna die. It's like,
yeah.
Oh,
but that's
no.
the thing, like, you're not. It's going to work out. Like, life has a way of working itself out. And I'm probably way too privileged to be able to say that. So I should probably not say more about that. But my point is, life does have a way of working itself out, and just you're not going to lose all your clients if you take a weekend off. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. 100%, man.
So it's okay to take a breather.
Man, when I was I went on a yoga trip to Bali.
Okay. And
we Bali it's not a very rich place. There is some pretty intense poverty in Bali, and we the person who was running like the yoga trip, essentially, we were all learning to do that stuff. They were like, hey, I have some friends in Bali. They know some people who need some stuff. Like, we're going to bring rice, coffee, and eggs. And we went to 3 like of the poorest places that I've ever seen in my life. And this one family in particular, oh my God, dude, this one, so rough. We show up, man, and like they all come out of this like brick cement square, and it's just dark, and there's one cot in the back corner, like you can barely see it. It's just like in the shadow. And they all come out, and it's like grandma, mom, dad, 4 or 5 kids, and like one of them is mentally challenged, and like they're they're having a very rough time, and we bring them these things, and like the grandma like starts breaking down and starts crying. I'm like, I can't handle this, dude. I can't. It broke me, man. And like, seeing that, but they were all happy, like they're all smiling and stuff, and they were like just down for the eggs and the coffee and the rice. They're like, thank you so much, this is awesome.
Right.
And like anytime I think like, oh man, it's like it's not going my way, it's like, man, they have it rough, and they were happy in their situation. Like, as rough as that is, they could find the happiness in that situation. I'm like, I can't complain. I cannot complain ever about anything. Dude, I'm sitting behind a computer. I'm live streaming with you. Like, this is nuts. We're creating art, and like, it's part of our careers. Like, we're so freaking fortunate and so lucky. So, I mean, to everybody out there who's doing the same, like, you know, count your blessings for sure.
For sure. I mean, I've got it good. I can't complain either. It's like you say, like I'm lucky that, you know, I'm able to do what I do now from the comfort of my home. Like, for a long time, like when I was working at Storm, like in Oslo, I would have to commute for like 4 hours a day because it was a 2-hour train ride each way, right? And that was like, that was an interesting year. So I did that for about a year and a half or something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really want to do that ever again, because that's you know, almost 20 or so hours of your week is just on a train, just commuting. That's a lot. It's a lot of time, and just time that you're never going to get back. I'm like, I'm doing this to go to work. Like, why? So so like since working from home, it's just like when COVID hit, you know, we all kind of worked from home, and like, that was kind of what made me want to go freelance as well, because now I never need to answer to a boss ever again. I just kind of do what I want.
Yeah, it's nice.
And that freedom is worth so much gold.
Yeah. Shout outs here to Jurassic Ham for the super chat. Much appreciated. It says, love the videos. I'm a 2D concept artist. Recently got into Blender to try and mix 3D in with my digital painting, and I'm loving it, son. Heck yeah, that's great. It's so much fun. Keep that spark going. It's such a blast to be able to create and get better at something, so that you can just keep creating and get to the point where, you know, we're talking about walking through the program. How about flying through the program? That's going to be sweet when you can fly through any program and just create what you see in your head. So keep it up. Keep it up. Thank you for the super chat. And Perfect Zero, I see you as well. Much appreciated. Thank you for the super chat. It's very kind of you. Hope you all are enjoying the stream and having a good time hanging out with us, because I know I am. It's a good time. How's your art going? What's going on your side?
Getting there. I'm just trying to set up some materials and stuff. Like, it's the boring stuff at first, right? The kind of thing you got to get out of the way. And this is one of the things, like setting up landscape materials is just, there's a lot of things I wish that were just quicker and easier. Landscapes are one of those things where just setting up, I wish, like, have you used RVT yet? Like runtime virtual texturing?
No, I don't even know what that is.
So I'll be able to show you once I get this set up, and it's essentially the ability to have objects automatically blend with the landscape. So you get like that nice transition. There's no hard edge. You know, when you smash a cube and a sphere together, you get that hard edge between them, right?
Yeah.
Where that geo intersects. With runtime virtual texturing, you don't get that. You get a nice, perfect blending of one material into the next one, and it's awesome. It's just a nightmare to set up.
Got you.
There's a way of simplifying it, with like there's a lot of, you know, people selling auto materials and stuff, so they make that process a whole lot easier. But yeah, you just need to set it up at first, and then it's so painful.
I'm on your screen right now, so if you want to just, you know, kind of talk people through what you're doing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing now. So I'm just trying to find. Right now, I've got this kind of dirt landscape texture on it, just some dirt and mud or whatever, and I'm gonna change that. I want to make this more of a like concrete floor and stuff. And the reason I'm using a landscape instead of a static mesh is just so that I can get that runtime virtual texturing, get that blending. If I want to put some rubble and stuff, you know, dust will blend in, it'll blend into the concrete a bit more smoothly. You're not going to get those hard edges. So I'm not even sure how it's going to look, but it's definitely something I want to try out. So I'm just looking through my Megascan materials right now and finding, let's say, concrete or something. And yeah, some kind of something I can use on the ground for the most part. And like this, maybe. Yeah, there we go. Grab that. Just drag in my maps there. It's that part of the process that's super boring. It's not very
it's
sexy.
all good. It's chill, man. We're hanging out. We're just chilling. Yeah, I'm looking through. I'm not doing anything any more exciting. I'm just looking through like Quixel assets right now.
Yep. I mean it's kind of part of the process. I think it's chill. It's like that's the time where I can actually put music on normally and just not think too much. So that's why I'm able to talk easily and just kind of do my thing. Because sometimes as you grow later into the process, sometimes like you're focused and you're I can't do two things at once. I'm like, oh, I'm struggling, and it's like there are times where I can't even have music on because music is too distracting, right?
Dude, I feel the same way. Like with even it's weird. This is weird, okay, but like with rotoscoping, okay, I'm in After Effects and I'm rotoscoping and I'm like listening to a podcast and I'm like, I can't even listen to this podcast. I'm weird though because I love rotoscoping, and maybe I don't love it, but I'm totally cool with it, and I welcome any time I need to rotoscope because it is like meditation. You're focusing on one task and like you're getting it perfect and it looks beautiful. Then you play it back and it works out. But yeah, sometimes it's just like I can't even listen to podcasts because I want to do a good job.
No, I totally get that. It's I don't know why. Like I wish I could just just not think so hard, but I find it just so distracting. I'm like I can't focus on two things at once here. I need to like just do my thing. So like I'll often have headphones on all day, but like there's nothing playing.
Oh yeah. That'll happen to me as well for sure. I'll forget I have them on, except when they start getting like your ears start getting greasy and you're like, oh man, I got this on.
I've never thought of having greasy ears, but you're totally right.
Oh man, it's rough. Brian Cafano. I really appreciate that super chat. It's very, very kind of you, sir. It says, keep up the work. I'm a VFX lighting artist looking for an internship right now. Even though I use Maya and Nuke, your tutorials still help me so much. You and my teacher, Monica, from Academic Phoenix, revitalized my love for art. Heck yeah, that's amazing. Wow. Keep it up. Keep going. Keep creating cool stuff. And, you'll find some work. William, do you have any advice for people looking for work? How do you find freelance work as a VFX artist or 3D artist?
It's a very good question. I think that's the excellent question. In my case, like since starting my YouTube channel, that's probably been the best career decision I've ever made. Like there's so many more opportunities that have opened up thanks to it. But before that, I think the best thing to do is just to have a good portfolio. Just show the world of what you're able to do and get your work out there. And obviously, there's the whole, apply for jobs and stuff. Obviously, that kind of goes without saying. But it's really important to have a good reel, I say reel, but just a good portfolio in general. Like, I don't even have a reel. I don't think I've ever made one. It's only recently that I've sort of semi-enjoyed making videos. Before, like a year or two ago, I hated making videos, hated it. The process of whole video editing was just terrible. No bueno. Did not like it at all. It's gotten better. Like now I'm like, okay, it's okay. But previously, like many years ago, I just could not stand the thought of making videos. So
gotcha.
I was more of a portfolio guy, had an ArtStation page, and just make art. Just be the best you can be and keep learning. And, just networking is probably the most important thing in the industry because it is a small industry, small place. Everyone knows each other. So it's just so important to not, alienate the wrong people.
Yeah.
And like I was saying earlier, right? Just don't be a jerk. Obviously that goes without saying, but it's even when you reach out to people, like reach out to people in a professional way. Like I can't tell you how many people like they'll send me a DM on Instagram and they're like, "Hey William," and they go into my like message request and I don't always see them, right? Because they pile up and I rarely check that.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later they'll be like, "Oh, I see you're ignoring me. Okay, thanks." I'm like, what? It's like, this is not going to do you any favors, dude. Like, this is not, that kind of passive aggressive attitude is just not going to do you any good in this industry. Like, someone knows someone. Everyone kind of knows someone in the industry, right? So, if you piss off the wrong person, you're not going to find any work.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. Going back to just being a good person.
Yeah, for sure. And just reply, like, write in a professional way. Don't hit someone up like you're their best friend. Like, "Hey, bro, what's up?" Like, hey, just maybe like write something up a bit more professional than "Hey, bro," for a first message.
Sup,
Once
fam?
you're more familiar with someone, then that's fine. And I say "Hey, bro" all the time, but just not to potential clients is what I'm saying.
That's
so
a good
writing, just being able to write a coherent sentence, write a good email, like have it, stay professional. It's simple as that. That having a good portfolio, making good art, that's the key.
Agreed. Because without the art, without the good work, you're not going to get hired.
No, unfortunately, like you can be, the nicest person in the world, but you just have to have the work to be able to show that work, right? So
you got to do the job. Like,
yep.
First question is, can you do the job? Second question is, are you chill? And then that's kind of it. There's probably other things like, are you close by? But that doesn't really seem to be.
That matters less and less now. That's one of the few great things to come out of COVID. Like, COVID's been a terrible thing for everyone involved. It's been awful. But one of the few good things to happen from COVID is the general acceptance of work from home. Like, yep. More and more studios are generally like more open to the idea, because my former workplace, they were adamantly, fervently against any kind of remote work. And that was just, oh man, it was really frustrating. Because like I told you, I had a 4-hour commute to work every day. I would get up at 5 a.m. every day, catch a train for 2 hours, and get to work at 8. So, I would wake up at 5, get ready for work and everything. I'd be at work at 8 and until 4, and then 4, take 2 hours train back. I wouldn't be home before 6 or 7 at night, depending if I had to, work a bit of overtime one night. Even if it's just 30 minutes, well, like, cool, I'm going to be home 30 minutes later than already late. So I was for work, I had to be away from home for 12 to 13 hours a day. And that's just, it's awful. Exactly. And so I would ask my boss, like, "Hey, like, is there any possibility I can work from home or something?" And he would just like, no, can't do it. At the time, they had a somewhat of a justifiable reason. And that reason was, like security, right? Like, they had like Disney level security clearance, and, we had clients that Disney was one of our clients. So I understand the security aspect of things.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm like, okay, you know what? Fair enough. But then COVID hit, and then like everyone was working from home. Like, all the Disney, like ILM was working from, every major studio working from home. Security, they would globally accepted, like, okay, you can remote in now. And despite that, my former boss was just like, "No, we can't. No, you can't remote." So we're like, well,
what?
Yeah, it was very, very weird. So that's kind of roughly when I had left for another job that was very okay with remoting.
Yeah.
And that alone, like that right there, just saved me, 4 hours a day.
That's great.
It was so much better.
Yeah, I read a book as soon as like the pandemic hit and we all had to work from home. I read a book called Remote, and
yes, I have too.
Oh yeah, it's so good. I'm like, going into an office is stupid. What are we doing? And then, like, it's frustrating because you're like, I can do my job from home. Why do I have to come in? I love working from home personally. I get to be closer with my fiance. Like, I get to go on walks. I get to go to a coffee shop if I want. Like, I do whatever. Like, sure. It's freedom, you just have a bit of freedom.
Yep.
So, it's nice. I enjoy
Yeah,
it.
I heard from that book. I think it was from Ash Thorpe. I think he suggested it at some
Oh
point,
yeah.
and on a podcast at some point. And I'm like, yeah, no, it was just. I mean, it's just it's so much better. I like you. I love working from home. Um, I live out in the countryside, so like it's so nice to just go out for walks in the morning before work and just start work at whatever time I want. There, like I have a really bad case of ADD. I was
Mm.
diagnosed as a kid, so like going to school was tough.
At least you knew as a kid.
And what that?
I said at least you knew as a kid.
Yeah, I guess so. Like my parents were very concerned, just because like my grades never really held up at first, and they're like, "Hey, like what's going on?"
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they figured out early enough that it was ADD, and so the reason I'm talking about it is just because sometimes there's a time of the day where like I can't focus. Like if
Yeah.
I don't very really do well with a typical 9 to 5, just because, well, it's just there's going to be times like at 8 or 9, like I'm not productive right now. I'm just not going to get that much work done. That's just the way it is. And
Yeah, that's that. I mean, I have ADHD. I learned
okay,
very
okay.
recently.
Yeah.
And like there's part of me feels like, not to discount anything, because I literally have it. I wonder how many aspects of ADHD everyone else has that doesn't have ADHD.
Sure.
Because like
Sure.
burning out mentally and like not being able to focus on like mentally draining tasks after
Yep.
like 4 to 5 hours, that's just standard. Like you're not going to be able to focus. You just burnt out for 4 to 5 hours. You redlined, and like you can't. How are you expected to like do anything productive after that? And I wonder, like, is that just ADHD or is that everybody?
Yeah, it's hard to say, right? Because like it's not to you don't want to say like, oh, life is harder for me than it is for you, right? You can't like you can't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough, but I don't know. I'm constantly like, my mind is, it's weird. My version of it is like I am somehow able to hyper focus on what I'm
Yep.
doing, and I can't like tap out. I'm just so zoned in. I get tunnel vision really hard. There are
Yeah.
times when I get distracted. Like I hadn't made any progress on this art since I started. Because like it's hard to talk and do this at the same time.
It is.
But you get distracted and all that stuff, and I forget everything. I forget.
Oh, same.
It's so annoying.
I have the memory of a goldfish. Short-term memory, goldfish. But long-term memory, man, I'm like an elephant. Like I'll remember what someone was wearing 20 years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, you're like the red t-shirt dude. And he's like, wait, what?
Nuts, man.
But
That's freaking
short-term
crazy.
memory though is like it's really bad. I have notes everywhere, like sticky notes and post-it notes, like all over my office. I need
Same.
like that physical, tangible. Like I have a dry erase board right next to my desk because like if I remember, okay, I have to do this thing, I have to write it down, or I will forget. It's just gonna happen.
Dude,
So,
yeah, same way, man. I got my freaking notes here of like, what do I have to do before the stream? What do I have to do after the stream? And then I have all these notes, like sticky notes everywhere across my desk and everything. Yeah, it's annoying, man. I'll forget my phone in my car. I'll come home, and then I'll like, where's my car? Where did I put my keys? God dang it!
Oh, same. The key thing was so bad for me that I had to buy those Apple AirTags.
Yep.
And so every single time, like I'll leave the house, I'm like, okay, open up the app. Okay, keys are there. Found them.
Man, I'm the same.
Every time.
I'm the same way. We got some super chats here to shout out. So we have, let's see. BJ, hey, it's been a minute, man. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat. That is awesome of you. Good to see you again. You said in the past few months you've been working with Blender. Now I'm also learning Unreal Engine. It's great. Any suggestions on what render engine is best for Unreal? We'll get to that in just a second. And because we got one or two more super chats to shout out. I don't want to miss anybody. Drew Annan. So Drew is actually an old friend that worked with us when I was at working with Freddie on his channel, Freddie W, before Rocket Jump. So good to see you. Shout outs. Thank you guys for being so inspiring and helping all of us be better in the virtual production space. It's very kind of you. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate you, man. And then I think we have one or two more. Guitar Jams, what's up? You guys are amazing at your crafts, but did you have any adversity with yourself or with family about being an artist for a living? Seems like you need confidence to push into the dark until first client. Let's start with that and we'll work our way back up to VJ's question. So did you have any adversity? You were mentioning some adversity, like you can't do that as a job, but that was from what was that, from the school?
Oh yeah, that was absolutely from the school. Well, not the school, but like the orienteering people.
Oh, okay.
Like
yeah.
the people who help you try to decide where
Career
to go to
growth.
college and
Yeah.
what. Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't sure what you guys called it over there.
That's the worst person to tell you you can't do that.
It's, I don't think they explicitly encourage the idea. They're the kind of people who they would 100% push any kind of high education job. So like I said, engineering and being a doctor, pharmacist, or whatever. And they never, ever, ever pushed for, manual labor. Like I had a good friend of mine, like he knew he wanted to work construction when he was like 5 years old.
Legit.
And he went, and so, it just made sense. Like if you knew him, you're like, yeah, he's going to be a construction worker. That's just that much is obvious.
That's awesome.
And, but those, those career helper people, they're just like, oh yeah, no, you can't do that. You have to be like a civil engineer. He's like, no, I don't want to be a civil engineer. Like, I know what I want to do. Like, stop telling me that I need to go to college or whatever. Because college is not for everyone. Don't get me wrong. I fully encourage, higher education. I'm sure it's a great experience, but it's not for everyone. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we need manual worker, we need manual laborers, we need plumbers, we need electricians. So like I don't know what it was a very weird push, encouraging students to just not do manual labor. Is that the same thing over in the US, do you feel?
Man, I'm trying to just think of my experience. In terms of being like told not to do art, I never had that. I was lucky enough that my parents were like down for what I was really into. I mean,
sure.
to let your kid at 19 years old. No, I was 21. I think I was 21. I was either 19 or 21, but I drove from Georgia to California to like move out there.
That's a decent drive.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a small drive.
No, it is not.
It's like 36 hours, I think.
Damn. Yeah, that's not short.
But yeah, like I went to a tech school, and the tech school I actually dropped out. I went about a year and year and a half or so, and it was After Effects, Photoshop, and all that stuff, and like.
Right.
People were into it, but honestly, from YouTube, from Andrew Kramer, and from Grayscale Gorilla, I knew how to do all that stuff before I went to school. So I'm like, this is a waste. What am I doing? And like, I've told the story a couple times, but like my After Effects teacher, Mr. Mason, he's legit. He was like, you have an opportunity to go out to LA and your dad won't let you go. Why don't you just tell him that you can always come back if it doesn't work out, and that if you're going to school so that you can get a job, and you're saying you got the job before you finish, so why would you finish school? And like my dad was always like, no, you can't drop out. I don't care if you go and do the art. I just need you to get that degree, because that's how he did it. And then like, I told him that. I was like, Mr. Mason told me this, and like he thought Mr. Mason was cool because he let me work on my YouTube videos in class and stuff, and like he was like, okay, if that's what he says, okay, and like he was down for it. So I'm like awesome. Really lucky. Got really lucky with it, and like my dad was cool enough to let me do that. But in terms of, you know, I mean, it's LA. Everyone's creative here. Everyone's doing like some ridiculous thing that, you know, on their own, trying to make it happen for themselves. And like,
Yep.
I don't think there's any adversity in LA with creative stuff. So again,
Gotcha.
very blessed.
Yeah, it was the same for me. I was very lucky that my parents were super. They were very encouraging. Like they just didn't really care what I was as long as I was happy. And so, you know, I do remember there were times like, yeah, maybe consider something else. Like I think I wanted to be an archaeologist as a kid, right?
A what?
And like an archaeologist.
Oh, dude, Indiana Jones? Yeah.
Yeah, man. And so I'm like, yeah, I totally want to do that. And the parents like, yeah, like, you know, maybe consider something else or something. um, but yeah, but in terms of art, like they were always very supportive when it comes to art. Like I would, yeah. So I can't complain about that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. John Finger, what's up, dude? We got to get some hacky sack. It's been a minute since we sacked out. That's very, very kind of you. Thanks for the super chat, man. Very good stuff. I missed you on Halloween. Dude. I even got the glow in the dark hacky sack for that night, but thanks for the super chat. Thanks for hopping in here, man. All right, so we got guitar jams. Drew, shout outs to Drew. VJ, okay. So VJ's asking any suggestions on what render engine is best for Unreal Engine. And personally, I'm like, the whole draw for me to Unreal is the real-time aspect of it. I know that I do have to render my stuff out. Like I learned that on that last project. But yeah, what are your thoughts on render engines inside of Unreal?
Like maybe render queue or something, or are we talking like some people use Octane in Unreal? So is that what they mean? Do you think?
Maybe.
Because Unreal itself is its own render engine.
It is,
right?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's why I'm not totally sure I understand that question specifically. But you know, I mean, a common question I get is often like, hey, like UE5 or UE4, right? And it's honestly they're kind of, apart from a few bells and whistles like Lumen and Nanite, they're more or less identical. Like the UI is different color in UE5. And like I said, UE5 has a few other new tools, which are awesome, you know, things run a bit better. But fundamentally, they are identical. Like there really is no fundamental difference between UE4 and UE5. So if you start learning UE4, you're going to transition real nicely into UE5. That's going to be a total non-issue. So it doesn't really matter which one you pick. I think it all depends on what your needs are. If you just want to play around and have fun and get some really nice looking images, UE5 is great because, you know, if you don't depend on stability, Lumen is so much easier to use.
Yeah. That was actually a question from Timeless Plays on Discord. Was asking, like, for someone who's starting and wants to just do cinematics and videos, like, would you start in Unreal 4 or 5 and just grow with 5 as it, you know?
Yeah, they kind of have their pros and cons, right? So in 5, you've got Lumen, but there's no path tracer. Like I'm using the path tracer right now. And just because, you know, it's the easiest way to get great lighting. And that's only in UE 4.27. So you don't have that in UE 5 yet. It's going to come, but UE 5 is just purely early access. It's like beta. It's not a full release yet. So I have a lot of people asking me on YouTube, like, hey, why are you still making UE 4 content? UE 5 is out. And then that's where they're wrong. UE 5 is not out. It's early access only. So it's there's still a ways to go before UE5 is like fully officially released.
And when you say it's not out, it's early access, it is still available to everybody for free.
Yes. Yeah. But what I mean, so what I mean by that, just to specify, is just it's kind of beta. It's just a lot of things that are going to be changing and improving and getting better. It's a little bit buggy. Sometimes it wonks out for no reason. You know, and it is much more performance intensive. You do need a better GPU. I think the recommended specs on UE5 are much higher than they are in UE4. So if you got, if you're running on a 1080 or something or a 1070, maybe stick with UE4.
Interesting. Okay. Very, very interesting. Because like I said, I'm making a video on computers and like specs and how to build stuff for 3D artists specifically. And I was looking at the specs, and they said you need for Unreal 8 gigabytes of video RAM on your GPU. That's the minimum.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, most GPUs have that now.
Yeah. But are you saying there's a different recommendation for 5, or are those
5? Oh, I mean, so you probably saw like the Valley of the Ancients playable, the new tech demo that they released with UE5. Yeah. So that the recommended specs to run that is an RTX 2080, 32 gigs of RAM, and the 2080 has like 12 gigs of VRAM. So that's their recommended spec. So it's like, yeah, it's not the minimum. You can run UE5 with lesser specs. You can. I'm not saying you can't. But to really push Nanite to its limits, to really use Lumen fully, you're going to need a better GPU. So like in UE5, like I can never get any scenes above 30 FPS ever. So you're going to have, performance-wise, it's a lot easier in UE4. And what's nice about UE4 is you can migrate all those projects over to UE5 when it comes out. So what you're doing now is not wasted.
That's a very good point. Yeah, it's a very good point.
So it is, however, there's a caveat there. If in 427, right? So I'm using 427 right now. You cannot migrate 427 assets into UE5 early access. You can with 426.
Interesting.
So because I think 427 was never really supposed to come out because COVID delayed the release of UE5 and everything. So 426 was supposed to be the last UE4 version. But then, like I said, everything got pushed and delayed. So they released 427, which had a bunch of virtual production upgrades, updates and stuff, stability updates, new features, that sort of thing. But because it's a new fork of the branch, the new branch or whatever, I'm not an engineer. It's basically a new build of the engine that's not compatible with the early access version of UE5. But 4.27 will be, you can migrate it to UE5 once it is fully released.
Okay, got you.
So very confusing, I know. What you need to know is if you want to migrate 427 to UE5's early access, you can't. You're going to need to migrate from 426 to UE5 early access. So just something to keep in mind.
William, I have a question. This one's a personal one here. So in Bridge, I'm trying to bring an asset into UE5.
Yep.
And if you notice you can see my screen, right?
Yep, I can.
In my export settings up here, there is no UE5 option.
Okay. You don't need. I'm glad you asked that. That's a fantastic little tip there. With UE5, you don't need to use Bridge. It's built into UE5.
I forgot.
So close that junk. You don't want to see that. So open up your content browser. I know you have it hidden there, I think.
Yeah,
there you go. So you'll see on the top left of your content browser, you see add. And then up there is add Quixel assets, I think. And it's going to open up the Bridge in the editor.
Oh, dude, that's a game changer. Oh my God. Yeah,
it's one of those things that like it's not immediately like obvious.
Dude, wait, so it doesn't have my favorites. Am I logged in?
I'm not sure if the favorites transition over.
I have to sign in. I think that's why. Hold on.
Okay, that might be why.
Dude, that's game changing. And dude,
I know, right?
Quixel is also free with Unreal Engine. That's
just bonkers. That is the Unreal's biggest strength right now. Because I've had a lot of people ask me like, well, hey, like why why would I use UE Unreal when I can just use Blender, and Blender might render faster, better, and have all the better, less headaches basically rendering in Blender. I would say I agree, but Unreal does have its fair share of advantages that no other DCC has, and that's the entire Quixel Megascan for free. That's just insane.
And what does DCC stand for, by the way?
So digital content creator, or I think it is.
Gotcha.
So digital content creation, or usually when we refer to a DCC, I'm referring to like Maya, 3ds Max, Blender, Unreal, anything that creates content.
Got you. Okay.
And so, I lost my train of thought. Yeah. So people ask me, wondering why would you use Unreal? Well, Quickfill Megascans is one of those main things. Second one is I love the content browser. Like, I don't know any other application that has something quite like this. Like the fact that you can search through your content so fast, so quickly, migrate things from one project to another so quickly. You can just have a whole library of assets, just with great thumbnails and everything, easily accessible.
It is a solid content browser. Yeah,
it's really good. And I don't know, like, obviously I've not used all the other applications out there. It's like you're a C4D guy, right?
I am.
So does C4D have something like that?
They have the what's it called? I forget the name of it, but it's kind of like this. It's kind of like that. Is it straight up called the content browser?
Oh, it might be. Okay.
I'm blanking on that, but that's what Beeple uses. He uses that all the time. So he basically like stores all of his assets in a easy to view setup, kind of like this, where like you have the thumbnails and you just drag and drop them into your scene. But it's not as like set up. I mean, it's just a window. It's just a window that you dock somewhere. But I love UE5. They took the one of my favorite things about After Effects is the Andrew Kramer's, like, it's called like VC console or something like that, and if you hit Control Space or Shift Space, you can set it up however you want. It will pull up a search bar for all the effects that you want to look up.
Oh, gotcha! I didn't know that.
Oh my god! I the first thing I'll install with After Effects is that.
Gotcha.
It's the best thing ever, and it saves you so much time. And UE5 is doing that. They do the same shortcut, Control Space bar, to pull up the content browser. It's like. And it gives it's great because it gives you more room to see what you're creating.
Sure.
It's sick.
It's funny because I actually disabled that feature in UE5 when I use it because I, like, no secret, I have a pretty crappy GPU. I'm using a 2060 Super, and it's fine. It's a good little card. It's got ray tracing and everything. It's great, but it's still not a beefy graphics card. And yeah, so excuse me. So when I need to drink the water.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So when I'm working, like, I actually prefer to have a slightly smaller viewport because my frame rate's higher.
Got you. I see.
So when I go full screen, like, my frame rate just tanks. They go to something like 5 FPS. Like, okay, I can't work. But when I have a smaller viewport, like, my frame rate goes way up because it's rendering. It's like 480p or something. So it's much better that way for me.
That's a great tip, man. I love it. Heck yeah.
So if I were to, like, make my screen like this, you can kind of see my frame rate's like 40, 50 FPS, and then when I do this, now it's okay. It got higher. How did that happen? Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. But yeah, normally, obviously, it kind of goes without saying, the smaller your viewport, the better your performance is going to be.
That makes a lot of sense. Somehow
so
it probably did the opposite,
maybe because I'm streaming and my GPU is being all weird. So maybe that's why. But yeah.
We got some more super chats to shout out. So let's start with Jeff. Says, "What's up, Clint? I see they got that new Rococo suit coming out 2022. I want to mess with that and Unreal and make some badass music videos." Yeah, absolutely. I want to mess with it too. I haven't shared this yet, but I am going to be a judge on their contest that they're running right now. I'm gonna, I'll Instagram and tweet it. I've been so busy, but yeah, it's for the release of their new suit. They're running a cool contest. You don't have to have a suit or own the program to enter, but I think they're giving away suits and gloves and everything as grand prizes. So definitely check that out over at Rococo. And Jeff, thank you, sir. Thank you for the super chat. Very kind of you. VJ, thanks again. Very, very generous of you. He says, "Thanks, William and Clint, for clarifying. I'm using Blender with Octane and love the result. So wondering if it's good to use Octane with Unreal as well." I know I've
heard some people use that. I have not used it myself.
Yeah. I have not used it myself either, but they're working on it. They're crunching on it.
Yeah, so I've heard. I'm not actually not even familiar with the code. Is it just essentially using Octane to render what you have in your Unreal scene and then just going from there?
Dude, I don't even know. It's a weird thing where like I'm so weird sometimes with programs. When I first started learning Cinema 4D, I was using the standard renderer, the physical renderer, which is like, why would you ever use that renderer? Why would you just not use Octane? Because Ren was like, dude, you got to use Octane. I'm like, nah, I got to learn the standard renderer first. And I should have just skipped straight to Octane. Now with Unreal, I'm in Unreal. I'm like doing the real time, and the whole draw of Unreal was real time. I'm like, why would I want to render anything? I want to do it real time. So, that's what I'm rolling with right now. Maybe in the future I will experiment with a renderer like Octane in Unreal. Sure. But for now, I'm jamming on what they got.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends where you might want to have like all the benefits that Unreal offers, like, Megascans and the content browser and like just the general ease of use of Unreal. I say ease of use, and I realize that's not applicable to everyone. I say ease of use because I'm just familiar with it. I'm very comfortable in Unreal, so I love working in UE4. So people might prefer that ease of working, getting that real time, previs stuff, and then use Octane for final pixel renders.
Yeah. I think like having all of the options available to you and knowing what those options are, being familiar with the options and how to tweak those options is certainly a smart thing to do. Sure. There's no reason why you'd be like, I have my screwdriver, I have my drill bits, and I got a hammer. Why would I want to use that? I'm gonna throw that away. Like you're probably gonna want to use a hammer at some point. So it's good to know in general, I'd say. Yeah. And D McCoy, I see ya. Thank you for the super chat. You say, after school, I moved to LA2 and then from there to Montreal. Best choice I've made. This helps me get my foot in the door. Nice to see you guys come together. Great job. Sweet. Thank you, D McCoy, for the super chat. Very kind of you. Montreal, I've been there once, but you said, William, that's where you spent most of your childhood?
Yes, that's true. Well, not my childhood, my adult life, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Montreal's a great place.
You ski, snowboard?
I do.
What's your preference?
I've been snowboarding most of my life, so I'm definitely more of a snowboarder. But since moving to Norway, like cross-country skiing is a big thing here, so I've been doing a lot of that here as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like people do it because it's actually trendy here. Like when you think of cross-country skiing in North America, it's like boring, but like here it's just like no, it's like the national sport. Like what people do. Like people who are cross-country ski heroes, like they are legends here.
Wow.
Very different culture for that.
That's awesome. I have been snowboarding a handful of times. Skiing a handful of times. We're actually going to Vancouver a little later this year to go to Whistler.
Are you gonna go to Whistler? Yeah, nice. That is such an amazing place. I love it there.
I'm so excited. I'm very excited.
How long are you going for?
Oh, we're gonna be there for like 5 days.
That's a good amount of time. That's decent.
Yeah, it'll be solid.
I mean, you're from like warmer climates, right? So I'm guessing snow is not something you've kind of dealt with that much.
I never had snow as a kid. I always wanted it, and I've only experienced it a number of times. And I love it every time I see it. Every time I go, it's the best.
Yeah, I love my snow. It's all snowy here now, so I'm a happy kid.
That's awesome.
How's your environment looking there?
My scene?
Yep.
It's okay. Trying to figure out like what this is. I need to throw some pipes in here. I'll throw some pipes in. Yeah.
There we go.
So we probably have another like solid hour to
Cool. That's
focus.
great. That's great. Just, things are slowly starting to get together there and getting some tech stuff set up there, and yeah.
And then we'll review the art from the weekly challenge.
Sure. Is that more of a thing that you do yourself, or that we do that together, or?
Oh yeah, we'll do it together.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It won't take more than 15 minutes after that hour of creating the art here.
Yeah, it works for me.
All right, I gotta add some freaking pipes. Man, the built-in Megascans, like,
it's amazing, right? It's so good.
Yeah, dude, that's next level.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite features of UE5 in general. It's just so good. I love it.
Makes it easy.
You know, I was just telling you earlier that I rarely have issues with Unreal now. Well, that was a lie.
All right, I'll switch over to you. What's going on?
Oh yeah, no, cool, no pressure, right? Crap. Yeah, no, I'm trying to get the runtime virtual texturing stuff set up, like I was texting you earlier. So normally, right here is where you should get a nice blend in with the ground, where I can control that fall off and stuff. Kind of what you're seeing here. So it will blend into the concrete here, so it can be like dust or something, or have dirt blending in, and so it really helps with that, you know, this nasty line there. But I can't quite figure out why it's not working right now. So that's fun.
Troubleshooting, man. Troubleshooting. That was another question we had was, let's see, who is it
We
from?
did have that question.
Yeah, let's see. I want to give these names right. Jonathan Peters 23 on Instagram. How do you get solutions to very specific issues?
A lot of Googling, a whole lot of Googling. YouTube is another great one. Otherwise, I use like some of the Unreal forums, which is it's a great place to look, because the chances are, if you have a question, someone else has asked that same question before.
Yeah.
So the Unreal forums are a fantastic place for that. It's, you know, either you can, you know, sign in and ask a question yourself, but 9 times out of 10, that question has been asked. So it's a matter of finding that obscure forum thread somewhere from like 2013 where someone asked like your specific question, and cryptic user 69420 asked the exact same question that you had, and you need to like find out. And then of course like they just write like, oh, thanks guys, I found a solution, without posting the solution, because he's a jerk.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, what did you do? How did you find it? So there's definitely a lot of Googling. And of course, there's also just the trial and error, which is, yeah, it's that's the main way to solve things. That just brute force it sometimes. You don't have much of a choice. So, yeah.
Yeah, Googling for sure. Knowing how to Google is a huge one.
It sure is. Where is that?
I don't even know. Do I even have any comments on how to Google properly? Goodness. That's a video in itself.
That's a really good question, actually.
Because it's like, I know what I would Google, but I'd see someone else Google something and I'd be like, that's not what you should be Googling.
Right.
It's like an intuition.
I don't even know how to. Yeah, I think so. I think it's just trial and error as well. I think it's just something you kind of learn with time. But that's definitely food for thought. Given more time to think about that question, I could come up with a more elaborate and better answer than just intuition, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think it's a matter. I think for me, solving issues is less about actually fixing the problem at hand and more going about it with as a process of elimination. So you try to factor, you assess the situation and you try to factor out as many things as you can. Like, okay, open up the scene in a different version of Unreal. Is my problem still there? No, great. I know it's not like a program. What's the word? It's not a project setting. So you can factor that out. Then you can try something else. Okay, does this happen in another scene, in another environment? You try to replicate the problem, and that's where you start narrowing down the source of your problem. And I think that's kind of where you eventually figure stuff out.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like fixing your computer. My computer is not turning on. Okay, well, unplug everything besides the power cable and your keyboard.
Yep.
Okay, it's still not turning on.
That'll fix it sometimes.
Yeah, that'll fix it sometimes. And then like you'll get the beeps. So like, what do these beeps mean? Okay, well, like consult your motherboard manual and see what the 4 beeps mean. Okay, I gotta plug in a monitor. I see. Hey, whittle it down as little factors as possible.
Exactly. You just process of elimination. Eventually you'll get it fixed. But sometimes it can be just like, oh, I had like an SD card plugged in, and for some reason my dumb computer tried to boot off my SD card. I can't tell you how many times that has happened. Like,
Yes, I have had a card reader literally like it crashed Windows every single time, and it took me forever to realize it was a bad card reader.
Yeah, you wouldn't think that. Like, computers are stupid.
Yeah.
They're the actual worst. Like, I've been booting this computer every day for like 2 years, and for some reason now it decided like, oh, you mean you want to boot off this SD card, right? Sure, got you, bro. And it's like, why would you do that, you jerk? All right. And also a good solution to like fixing your problem is sometimes if you get locked onto a problem, just move on to something else. Like, unless it's like actual like a showstopper, move on to something else, especially when time is tight. Don't waste your time just noodling around with something that ultimately is not that important, right? So just focus on what does matter, on the important stuff, and then once you have time, once you've gotten like the big chunks out of the way, then you can go back and fix those issues. But it's so dangerous sometimes. You're in a production, you want to fix it, and just the way my brain works, like it captured all of my brain's CPU resources, and just I can't think of anything else until I fix that problem. But that's just not the right way to go about things.
Yeah, I waste so much time on stupid stuff, on like OCD stuff, and I try to catch myself every time I do it. And it's so hard because it's really procrastination. That's what it is. I'm like just wasting time, like reordering or renaming things that really don't need to be renamed. Like, just
it really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Keeping a clean scene is really important. I get really irrationally angry with people who have like the messiest outliners and scenes in general. Really makes me angry when people just it's a mess. Like, you open up their scene and they're sick one day and you have to take over their scene, and it's just like, oh man, you monster.
Yeah.
Why would you? Why?
What are you doing? It's funny, but like, so working at Corridor, right? It was working with a team, and sometimes you're opening. Well, a lot of times actually most of the time you're collaborating with people, creating things together, opening scenes and all that stuff that someone else has used. And like, I think that me, Sam, and Ren was like the perfect balance of VFX artists, because like I am so OCD about organization and cleanliness, and like everything's got to be named properly. And then Sam is just like, I'm gonna just get this done as fast as possible, and it's gonna look great. And I'm like, but these aren't organized. And I'm like, Sam, you got to organize it a little bit. And then but Sam's like, no, but we need to work. We need to get the deadline. We need to work faster. I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. So like we would balance each other out really nicely. And then
Right.
Ren is just like going crazy with ideas. And like,
I think
it's yeah, you need a balance.
For sure. Yeah, I've definitely worked with people who are just, really anal about the things that just are not that important. Like, bro, we've got like a delivery in, tomorrow. Like, get the shots out, we'll clean up. And I know it's not ideal, but life is not ideal. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But the thing is, like, it's always, if I know someone else is gonna pick up my scene, I clean up my act. Because it's embarrassing when I'm like, oh no, he's gonna pick up my shot. Oh, it's a mess. Oh no, this is so embarrassing.
It's like someone walks into your room and it's just your underwear everywhere. It's like,
yeah, pretty much. That's exactly how I feel. So yeah, it's good to stay organized, and especially when you're handing stuff up, because it saves them time too, because they don't have to figure out what the heck you were doing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like trying to pick up someone's render or their materials or shaders or whatever, and it just, what is going on? Like a really complex shader network, a complex tree of noodles, and nothing's. And what happened here?
Brutal.
At Corridor, were you mostly doing like YouTube stuff, or did you guys have like client work as well, or?
0 clients. It was
man, that's
all
the dream.
YouTube. Yeah, 100%. Because they could just do what they wanted, and
right.
Why would you take clients unless it works for a video? So like there'd be instances where like Nico, you would have like a YouTuber, I forget which YouTuber it was, ask, hey, can you deep fake this thing? Because we're trying to do deep fake like Tupac for a Snoop Dogg music video. Could you help us? And Nico would be like, yeah. That sounds awesome.
Right.
And you want me on set and I get to meet Snoop Dogg? Okay, can we make a video about it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that works out, so stuff like that,
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's the dream. Like, because client work it's fine. It pays the bills. So, but not all clients are fun to work with. Shocker.
True. Yeah, true. Stick with the good ones. Keep the connection with the good ones.
Yeah, it's just sometimes like the boring jobs are the ones that they pay the most, right? So
yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta do it, suck it up, and just go for it.
For sure, and it's your livelihood at that point. It's like,
yep,
you gotta make ends meet.
But man, sometimes some clients are just not cool. Like sometimes they're actually on an ego trip, where they will just pixel peep every single thing you've got. It's absurd. And it's just no fun for everyone. I think they get some kind of sense of validation by just needlessly critiquing your work. I mean, they're paying, so of course they're the boss. But sometimes it's just like, oh, this one railing in the back is the chrome is too shiny, but like it's motion blurred at the field. Like you can't even tell it's chrome, but they still want it to change.
Man, that's what I loved about working with the guys at Corridor is they're like, it doesn't matter. Does it look good when you play, when you hit play and you watch it one time? Done.
That's the dream.
Yeah, man. It's but then also like when we do VFX Arts React and I was sitting down with the VFX supervisor from Shang-Chi, and he was just telling me, dude, every single thing. I mean, you were a VFX artist on a Marvel movie, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm sure it's like, it's absurd the level of detail.
Oh yeah, I mean, but that's VFX,
perfect.
right? Like your work, your renders are going to go through so many people. It goes through your supervisor, it goes to his supervisor, it goes to the head of CG, then it goes to the client, and it goes to then the client can be any number of people. It can be like the actual producer, then it can be the director, it can be, there's so many people looking at your work and just tearing it apart and just viewing it under the most absurd of situations, and it's just like, man, like they're increasing the contrast like crazy to see like how the shadows are, if there's too much noise in the shadows, and like, but like the client, the viewer is never going to see this. But man, like I said, they're paying, so they're the boss.
Yeah. They're
the worst
paying
though
to
is
the
when they
boss, yeah.
are on an ego trip. Is that when like I've actually had clients where um they what they would tell me like, okay, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be fixed, which is fair enough. Um, but sometimes like if I knew it was just like an absurd request, so I would send them the next day. I have sent the exact same render, just up version the name, so version 5 instead of version 4,
You
and they're
wouldn't.
like, oh, this is perfect, thank you. And
No.
they were on an ego trip.
Dude, I have a very similar story. I forget who
Oh, really?
told this to me, but it was someone in color correction, and they were saying how they would just have these nightmare clients tweaking every single frame, every shadow highlight and midtone.
Oh no.
And what they did was they would have a client knob. Like basically here, let me demonstrate. Let me show you. So basically like you got me on this thing, by the way.
Yep.
This like
Oh yeah.
Black Magic quick edit thing. So they'd have the client have one of these. They'd be on the knob right here, and be like, yeah, just very slowly turn the knob until it looks good to you. And they're like, that actually looks great. Yeah, that looks great. But the knob wasn't plugged in. It didn't do anything. It was just like a freaking kid's toy to play with, so that they thought they were doing something. Yeah, I'm like, man, that could get you in trouble, but that is hilarious.
I mean, it was a calculated risk.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gold. I love it.
Yeah, so good. It's like those are the stories you just love to hear. It's like, yes, we won another one.
Yeah, I mean, but then I complain, but doing work for myself, like as a freelancer, it's still so much better. Like
100%. Yeah,
than doing
100%.
it. Like if you have to like rip your hair out for someone else for a studio, it's like man. But
Why?
then again, like
yeah.
But then again, studio life has been some of the best times of my life as well. So I'm complaining about studio work, but like it's also been amazing. So I really, yeah. I'm sure you love you go about it all the time. You loved your time at Corridor, right? So
It really was a dream job. It really was. There's no getting around that. And I just felt that like the only way to do exactly what I wanted to do was to just do it myself. And like there are things that I really want to do, like make a feature film that it just wasn't possible there because it wasn't in line with like what they were doing. Which is totally fine. People think like, oh, but what, they won't let you do what? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's a business. Come on. At the end of the day, like they're running their business the way they feel is best to run their business. And I'm not saying they're running the business poorly. It's actually incredible how they're doing it. And I've taken a lot of pointers from Sam, Nico, and Jake, and everybody from Ren too, on how to run my channel. So, and I was literally there yesterday playing Smash Bros with them for Node, and like, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's just like the Venn diagram was pretty massive. Like the overlap was pretty massive, but there was still some stuff on the outside, on my side, that was very important to me that just outweighed the, so it's all chill though, man. Like we all love each other so much.
That's good.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, no, it's a whole learning experience. Like I said, like working in VFX was for 5 years was like the most amazing learning experience, because I really enjoyed, like we'd have like daily meetings every day, right? That's just what you do. And we'd like analyze our shot, we'd go over what we did the day before. And like I was really lucky to have an amazing VFX supervisor who was just probably one of the smartest people I know, and who just knew his stuff when it comes to VFX. He knew, he was literally a render engineer. He was he worked at Weta, and he wrote his own render engine.
Goodness.
Like not many people can do that. And so he was doing some of that, and he was just fascinating to listen to. Like he would analyze your shots and just kind of pick it apart, but in the most constructive way, in the most helpful way ever. And that is what really helps you grow as an artist. Especially when it's really constructive stuff. It's not just nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking. That's when things get really, really, really helpful. You're like, okay, like this doesn't look good because of XYZ. And when it's constructive and he tells it in a non-condescending manner, that's when you just thrive. Like you want to impress it, right? You want to show them like, hey, I listened to your advice and here's what it turned out, and it was really great. I loved my time there.
That's awesome. Having someone who can be a mentor and a guide,
yeah,
is such a blessing. Not everyone is equipped to do it.
No, definitely not. And not everyone's equipped to handle it either. Like some people just do not accept criticism. Like they just cannot accept it at all. They just take it personally. Often it's a thing where they can't handle the criticism. And that is definitely something that a lot of people need to accept. If you're going to work in this industry, accept criticism. And that's how you're going to learn and grow. It's not personal. Use it as a way to get better.
Yes, it goes both ways though, because you have to give it in a kind way. You have to give it in a very like loving, constructive way, and not look down on the person or judge the person for doing it that way. Like they're learning, they're new, they're brand new. Like, what do you expect? So it's definitely on both sides to like be responsible and like be grown-ups about it and like take the most from it. So
yeah, I think that's definitely what helped me the most when I was starting off. Like back in 2008, like just 3D forums were like a really big thing. Like were you did you know about Polycount?
No,
back in the
never.
day?
No.
So Polycount was a game art forum that really would like focus on game art, and the Polycount forums they used to be a very small, tight-knit group of people, and these were like industry professional people working at Ubisoft, people working at Relic Games in Vancouver, like people, really, really skilled people. And if you posted your work there, they would demolish you, but in a very constructive way. And it was rough. Like they would really be pretty brutal in their feedback. But if they noticed that you took their notes into consideration, you applied their criticism to your work, and you reposted again, they would be like, man, awesome. And they would just like promote your work even more and more. It was an amazing learning experience. And I think I'm where I am today because of the Polycount forums. It's hard to find that nowadays. That just doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
I don't think. I mean, now I think it's more on Discord is more of the thing now. Discord, and I guess there's still some forums around, but not much.
Discord is pretty great. Like, I mean, that's what I try and do with my server is I try and have it be like an open place where people can ask questions. Like, I mean, the whole thing is learning and growing together. That's like the phrase, the catchphrase or the motto is we're all learning and growing together. So drop the ego and let's be constructive and have fun.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and I know Ash is actually Ash Thorpe. He feels very similar about it. Like it's always learning, always growing. I think that's his thing too. And I couldn't agree more. Like we don't know the answers. None of us know all the answers.
No.
And as soon as you realize like, or if you accept, well, that's the wrong word. If you think you know all the answers, then you're done. Like you've lost.
Oh,
so always be open.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the world is too small. I mean, I'm still learning constantly. Like I've been using Unreal since 2008, and I'm still learning new things every day. Every time I use Unreal, like just my last video, like just the silliest thing about saving, tons of gigabytes of disk space. I had no idea, no clue whatsoever. And like I said, still learning, and there's not enough time to learn all the things. Even though I'd love to take like a week or a month off just to learn Houdini or Blender or something, but that's not going to happen.
Do you use a 3D? You said you're in Maya?
I'm in Maya, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But I mean, I've been doing mostly Unreal now. Like I haven't touched Maya. Like I don't even have a Maya license because I just don't use it nowadays. I just use Unreal for 90% of my work. So
sweet, that's awesome. Yeah,
I'm using... you're definitely in C4D for the most part, right?
Recently, it's been Unreal. Like I found a really cool I probably shouldn't say this, but I just got this new computer, Puget workstation, and I hadn't installed C4D yet. It's just Unreal right now. I need to. I literally had a mild panic attack when I realized I didn't have C4D on my computer because I'm like, crap, I might need to model something or like import some custom thing. But I mean, no, I'll keep it simple. I'm just gonna do with Quixel stuff today. So
yep. Oh, I mean, you can do so. That's the beauty of the Quixel Megascan. You can do so much.
Yeah, it's the best.
It gets the job done. It's not perfect.
It's great.
So, what that? Sorry.
It's like Legos, man. It's the best. I love it.
I know, and it's just growing every day. It's getting better and better, and eventually I'm probably gonna start scanning my own stuff. I've got reality capture now, and so I got a video with them coming up soon.
No way. So are you serious?
Yep.
Me too.
Oh yeah. Oh, no way. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
dude, that's awesome.
Well, they got purchased by Epic, right? So
yeah.
So yeah, they're just cranking out the good stuff. It's really looking forward to that.
Oh, dude, we gotta chat behind the scenes then to figure out like if we can, so we don't double dip. So we're giving the audience two different legs of the thing. So and we can even point to each other's videos or something too. That might be sweet.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think they would object. I don't think they will object to that. To like, oh, yeah, more eyes on our content. Sure.
Absolutely. Everyone's in the family. It's awesome.
What would you say like your biggest strength is? Like, is it modeling? Is it like, I know you said roto, so you've been a bit of a comper yourself.
Yes, compositing is probably the thing I've done most. But I don't enjoy it most. Yeah, that's a good question. What are my strengths? Wow.
Yeah, the job interview, by the way, just so you know. What's your biggest strength and weaknesses?
Good question. I'm switching to your screen for this while I think about it.
Fair enough.
My strengths would probably be my drive.
Gotcha.
I constantly want to push myself to make better stuff.
Yep.
I love creating photoreal environments.
Mm-hmm.
And like atmospheric, moody scenes. That I'd say that's a strength of mine. I'm pretty fast at editing. I generally know how to composite pretty well because it's the thing I've done most.
Gotcha.
And I love making shaders. I really do love making shaders.
It's like so zen. I love
it's
that.
It's awesome. Yeah. Weaknesses: animation, modeling, simulation stuff, any character stuff. I'm just trying to think of all the things there are. Like everything that I didn't mention, I'm bad at.
Fair enough.
Any other weaknesses? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think are your strengths and weaknesses?
I mean, like I said, I've always been a bit of a generalist, right? So I think that's been my biggest strength, is just the ability to just kind of pick up anything, and I'll learn it reasonably quickly. I'm never going to be like a legend of animation, but I can animate. I've done some animation in Black Panther, and then after a while, and that was kind of the strength that I had at my previous job, is that it was a smaller studio. It was one of the best VFX studios in Norway, but it's still a pretty small shop. So due to the small nature of things, sometimes, someone would be sick, or you had like a dad who had to go pick up his kid at kindergarten, and like, hey, well, you need to kind of fill in this role for the next week. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so, I just they threw me into comping for a month, and then they like, okay, we need an animator to animate this shot. Or sometimes they just tell me, hey, you need to do this entire shot yourself. So I do the match move, I do the animation, get the cameras all set up, and then we do the modeling, the look dev, all the shaders. I would do all the lighting, and then the rendering, and then I never took it all the way through to comp, but almost there. So I was kind of a bit of a one-man army there, and I loved it. I think it was a lot of fun, and that was a really good learning experience, because it's one thing to force yourself to do it at home. It's another when you don't have a choice, like, hey, you need to finish these shots by next week. and then you're like, well, I'll figure it out then.
Yep.
And that's the best way to learn. You learn under that pressure, and that's something that's really hard to do on your own. And that's the kind of segues back to what we were talking about earlier, like people who don't have that same drive, who don't that discipline to force themselves to learn and struggle. Working in a studio or a school in general will really help you with that.
Yeah, or having a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Oh, it keeps you on your toes.
Certainly, because you can't put out info that's like not correct. You have to. I mean, I've said things that are wrong.
Sure.
In the past on my YouTube stuff, on the educational stuff, like that are just straight up.
Yep.
I said it wrong. I thought it was right, and it was wrong. Like it's gonna happen, but like, it definitely keeps you on your toes, and it makes you really push yourself to know what you're talking about to the best of your ability, because you don't want to be a fraud. You don't want to be a hack. You don't.
No, sure.
Certainly. And even like doing tutorials that like other people have done too feels weird at times too.
Yeah.
You know, like I did feel a little bit of me felt weird that like I learned so much stuff from you recently, and I put a lot of those things that I learned in my Unreal breakdown video for that music video project.
That's fine. Because you're putting your own spin on it. That's fine.
Yeah, I think as long as you put your own spin on it, and like like to me, it gives me peace of mind to shout out that person.
Sure. Yep.
Very much like you did on your last video with that guy on Twitter. You shouted out like, gotta point the audience to where it came from, and then like,
100%. Yeah. There's no shame in giving credit where credit is due. Like it doesn't devalue myself. It doesn't make me have less credit like for making the video. I think it just makes them appreciate like, okay, hey, like, they thought about me, and they send some clicks my way, and that's fine. As long as you put your own spin on it, you give credit where credit is due. It's fine to cover content that's been covered before, because everything's already been done.
Yeah.
So it's impossible to be kind of original in this day and age now.
Yeah, I mean, you can come off as original, but it may not be truly original. Yeah, there's a great book called Hitmakers, and it talks about how things get popular. And one of the brief, like, this is like my main takeaway from the book, was that there's basically what he calls is the 80-20 rule, where when you're creating something, whether it be new clothing, a new movie, a bubblegum wrapper, a new car, whatever, when you're designing something, 80% of that design is recognizable. You know it. You've seen it before. But the other 20% is fresh and totally different. It's a different combo. It's a different one too. So that 20% is like, I've never seen, I don't know, space mixed with, I don't know, steampunk or whatever. But that's like, there's a bunch of movies like that actually. Yeah. But you get what I'm saying. It's that 80-20 thing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you kind of put your own spin on things, and yeah, that's fine.
I think that's about as close.
The issue I have is when people like they'll just take your, I had a guy, and I'm not gonna point a finger, but I had a guy who I had made a tutorial, and like literally the day after made the exact same tutorial with no credit whatsoever, and I'm just like, bro, come on, like. And of course, like at the time, I was a much smaller channel, and he was a much bigger channel than I was. So I'm like, really? Are you just gonna blatantly copy verbatim what I did? And it's not like it was a new tool that he had, that he was covering. It's not like we were both covering the same plugin. This was like an actual workflow thing. Like, hey, this is my workflow for achieving XYZ.
Oh, and you think there's no way that he could have like?
It is impossible for him to have covered done the exact same thing. I'm like, dude, really? Are you really gonna do that?
Dang.
So that's where I have an issue. But like people covering the same, the same topics and that's fine. That's totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, agreed. That's crazy.
Have you ever had issues with like just like haters in general? I mean, we all have them, right? But what's like for anyone and online, because it's a scary place. Like the internet is vicious. sometimes. And
Yeah.
what is your advice for new artists who are might be scared or just nervous about posting their art on ArtStation on social media and getting their work out there?
That's a good question. It's a really good question. I would say get involved in a group of people that's doing it. It's always easier to do it with a group of people. So,
Sure.
like, the Discord server or, any sort of community of people that's doing it. Like, follow different Instagram accounts that you enjoy, or follow people on Twitter that maybe do challenges together or something like that.
Yep.
That helps. That certainly helps. And you're part of something that isn't just you. You're adding to something that's greater. So I think that's a great way to actually start posting your stuff online, is post it with people. And then you're going to get better. You're going to, maybe on your 5th piece of art that you put out, your 5th render, you're like, this one is the best one I've done. Hands down. I'm excited to share this. And you share it because you're excited. But the ones that you're scared about, like we don't have to post. We don't have to post anything, actually. You can just create art by yourself, for yourself only. I know Ash does that. He makes art for just him and for no one else. And I'm like, dude, that is crazy. Like,
good for him. I mean,
I know.
I would struggle with that. Like, I feel like I'm just like anxious, like, oh, I really want to get this out to the world. I mean, humble brag almost. Like, I want to get this out, right? I think that's what a lot of artists want to do. So good for him for just doing it for himself.
I know, right? Dude, your scene looks great, by the way. I'm gonna full screen.
Oh, thanks. There's so many things that just didn't work.
Your scene? Can you?
Yeah, sure. So it's got to render real quick, but yeah, there we go. So
Tacoma, what is that?
This is the Ford Raptor. It's actually Ash Thorpe's car.
Oh, that's right. That's funny, dude. That looks so good.
Thanks. The denoise are a bit aggressive here. I need to give it more samples, but my poor little GPU is kind of suffering right now.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I'm using the Path Tracer right now just because, like I said, Path Tracer is just really nice for it's just so fast. It's basically an Octane for Unreal, right? It's basically what is it, Blender Cycles, I think it is, in Unreal. So
yeah.
there's no baking involved. You don't need to rely on just anything else. It just works, right? So it's kind of like the idiot-proof way of doing things. And so it's not real time anymore, obviously. So you kind of lose that advantage. But sometimes it's nice to just get like a ground truth type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It does have its own set of issues, like the volumetric don't work, decals don't work, which is a real bummer because decals are just amazing in Unreal. But
wait, decals don't work with the Path Tracer?
That's correct.
Oh, snap, man. So Steve Began, who is actually watching the stream right now, shout outs to Steve, Sensei Steve. He's the guy who taught me most of what I know in Unreal.
Okay.
He took the time out of his day to help me. So huge shout outs to Steve. And he blew my mind with the decals. I was like, what the heck? So good. Dude, it like changes.
Do you not have those in C4D? I thought, maybe that's a Blender thing. Maybe.
No, there's no volumetric decal, anything like that. And it's so good.
Yeah, I know. It's just a free way of adding detail anywhere and everywhere so easily. Big fan. Definitely a big fan.
Hey, question for you.
Yeah.
Is there an easy way to duplicate this ladder 100 times like this? Just down, 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 down.
No, I don't think so. You're gonna what I do is I just kind of duplicate one, select two, and then duplicate those two, and then just exponentially go. I wish like Maya has a tool for it. I think it's Shift D or something, and just like you just spam that shortcut and it just duplicates in a series.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so. I mean, you can create a blueprint for it. And that's essentially going to duplicate things along a spline, but you kind of have to set it up and such, which is kind of a bit of a pain.
It's all
But
good.
so
I'll do
no,
it
to answer your
manual.
question, like quickly and dirtily, I don't think there's a way. Although that's not. Yeah, no, not really.
It's
I know
all
you can
good.
make a shortcut for like you can. There's a shortcut for like place actor here or something. So you select something in your content browser, and you can do the shortcut. And you can spam it, and it'll place an actor wherever your mouse cursor is.
Okay.
Which can be super useful. But yeah, I think you have to set the keyboard shortcut for that.
Okay. Got you.
Let's see now. I'm super disappointed I can't get my runtime virtual texturing to work on my ground, which is really annoying. But that's one of those things. Sometimes it's just
It is what it is.
Yep. I like your team too. It's coming along quite nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just like in the detail part at this point. I'm using a table, upside down table as a walkway. It's so far away you can't tell.
If it works, it's just a silhouette, right? So, and that's actually a great tip for a lot of people. Is sometimes you don't need to do everything perfectly. Like you wouldn't believe, like sometimes there's a very creative reason why I use depths of field so much, is because it's just blurred out, and so you just need some kind of silhouette.
Yep. Silhouettes, man, it's all about. I love me some silhouettes. I love that style so much.
Yeah.
Man, we were talking about this Dune, freaking Dune.
Oh yes.
So good, like the freaking cinematography in that movie.
It's a beauty. I mean, you know what their process was, right? So they shot that digitally, and then they scanned, or no, sorry, I think they reprojected the digital onto film negatives.
Yeah.
To get the film grain, and then they scanned that back again afterwards.
Dude, that's
it's like that's some serious dedication right there.
That's legit, man. I love it. Like, that's the most expensive way to add film. Could you imagine doing your YouTube tutorials, adding film grain to your YouTube tutorials like that?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Sending it in like that?
I mean, I just gonna use DaVinci Resolve for that, man.
Yeah, seriously.
Like the film stocks you can get now they look just as good. Like I would be very curious to see like a side-by-side comparison of like just the actual raw digital file scanned, and then compared to the raw digital file with just a noise applied in post instead. I'm sure, like knowing the director, I'm sure there was a very good reason he decided to do that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like he's a film buff, you know. You gotta do it right. And most of me feels like, yeah, I agree with him. You gotta do it right.
Yep.
But then there's a small part of me that's like, I'm assuming what other people feel.
Why?
Yeah, which is like, that's stupid. But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, when you have the budget, why not?
Yeah, like you want to, like, I'm a perfectionist, man. So it's like, you got to do it legit. If you're spending all this money on this movie, give it the right treatment, you know, like set it up properly.
Yeah, like I said, I would love to, like, just the photography nerd in me would just love to see like a side-by-side comparison, see like, hey, like what was the actual gain they got here?
Yeah, that's a great question.
But we'll never know. We can only anticipate or just take wild guesses, I guess.
Did you read the book?
I did not. I actually had never heard of Dune until, like, you know, it was announced that they were making a movie on it.
Okay.
Did you?
I bought it after I watched the movie.
Okay. You started reading it, or?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's confusing.
How is it? Is it like is the writing any good? Like
I loved the movie, so I guess I'm biased. So I went into it with like a positive mindset.
Right.
And then from there, it's pretty confusing. I'm gonna be honest. There's so many words and terminology and things that, like, I'm like, okay, I just don't really need to know what that means. I don't think.
Sure.
And I'm gonna try not to let that, like, taint my feeling of it.
Yeah.
But I just want to be in that world again, so I'm loving it. Like I'm loving it for that reason, you know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Is it one of those things where is it possible that you're just too early in the book to get a feel for it? Because, for example, like Game of Thrones, when you first start reading Game of Thrones, it's just like what is going on? There's like so many names. It is super complicated, but once you get the hang of it, it is so good. It is like such a good book.
Yeah, it's definitely that vibe right now. It's 100% that vibe, and I'm like, I just need to invest a little bit of time in it, and it's gonna be sick.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then you just need to get into the environment and into the world, right? Like the world building aspect of that movie was just fantastic.
Yep.
Like we were talking about earlier, it's a bit of a slow film, but I kind of dig it. I love that they just took the time to really just set the pace, set the tone. You really get a feel of like where they're living. Yeah, it was a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
So I'm really glad they're making a second one, or that they, I guess it was popular enough to justify a second one, I suppose, because there was definitely that period where they weren't sure if it was going to be greenlit or not.
Ah, the second one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was not a sure thing.
I didn't know that. I'm excited they're doing. Yeah, I'm excited they're doing a second one because I just want to be in that world. It's really good.
Same. Are there any movies that like inspired you to do what you do now?
Oh my god. Yeah, certainly.
So many.
I mean, my aspiration is to direct movies.
Right.
Not CG movies, but live action movies. And
Okay, yeah.
I think one of the earliest movies that had an impact on me, it's weird because I actually didn't grow up. Part of me doesn't remember. I'm gonna be honest. Part of me doesn't remember. I don't know. But the other part of me grew up with Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee.
Okay.
Those guys are my favorite, and they were so freaking cool. I loved it so much. And I was in martial arts as a kid. It was the jam. And that, like, those guys are what got me into movies. And then from there, my dad showed me The Matrix, and I was like, this is the best movie ever. Braveheart,
Yes.
Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, all of Spielberg stuff. I discovered my neighbor. I grew up in Chino Hills, and my neighbor was Chinese, and he's still like my very best friend. He'll be in my wedding. He's my oldest friend, and he showed me. I think he showed me Spirited Away.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yep, and then I think he was also the one to show me Stephen Chow. Don't quite remember, but Stephen Chow, he made Kung Fu Hustle, and he's like my favorite director. Oh my god.
Okay.
So good. But stuff like Children of Men, obviously, like what I'm making now is very much that kind of vibe.
Right.
And wait, what do you say, Soto? Oh, my camera's gone. The heck? All right. Let me fix this. What about you, though? What about you? What movies got you into what you're doing? Or what inspired you to get into what you're into right now?
Definitely. I mean, Lord of the Rings was the big one. I was, I think, 9 when that came out in 2001. So yeah, it's been 20 years since The Fellowship of the Ring came out. 20 years. I feel like it came out like 10 years ago. So that was definitely a very big defining moment for me. Like as a child, that just blew my socks off. So that was a big one. To this day, like Lord of the Rings is still my favorite trilogy of all time. Like I watch it in good times and in bad, rainy Sunday afternoons, Christmas Eve, whatever. Like that to me, it's just a masterpiece of cinematography as well. The music alone, it's just, oh god, it just chills every time. So that was a big one, and of course, like growing up, I loved Halo. So like that kind of as a teenager, I loved games. What teenage boy doesn't? And I think that's kind of what got me to the actual more the 3D side of things. just because like, hey, like how would I model Master Chief in 3D, right? So I did some digging, like okay, like 3ds Max, okay, I got to learn that, and then just kind of jumped into Maya and just slowly started figuring out like, hey, maybe you can make a living off of this, right? And obviously my parents were not convinced. They weren't against it, but they were just like, huh, what, making video game for a living? Are you sure, really that a thing? Can you actually do that? And yeah, no, I'd say like Lord of the Rings and Halo were definitely the biggest influencers for me.
That's awesome.
But funny enough, like I've never been much of a movies guy. Like, don't get me wrong, love movies, but growing up, we didn't really watch much movies. Like my parents were just not moviegoers. They didn't have. I think they upgraded to DVD from VHS when Blu-ray had been out for like 5 or 6 years. So
yep.
Yeah, so they were like movies were definitely not a big thing in our household. So like I definitely didn't grow up around movies, which is funny. When I working in the film industry, and like you're gonna probably have to cancel the stream now because I've never actually seen Terminator. Like,
oh man, you've never seen Terminator? You haven't?
I saw The Matrix for the first time like two or 3 years ago.
Oh man, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm like my level of culture when it comes to films is virtually non-existent.
Well, hold on. What did you think of The Matrix?
I liked it. I mean, it holds up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even like 20 years later, it holds up. I was surprised, like the VFX there. Like I'm like, you know what? This is not terrible. It's not the best CGI I've seen, but it holds up. Dude. So yeah, no, I liked it. It was great.
That's crazy. Yeah, I showed The Matrix to a friend for the first time about 2 to 3 years ago, and I was like, it was the best to watch a movie with someone who is watching it for the first time, because it's kind of like I get to watch it for the first time.
Yep.
Oh, so good, man. So freaking good. Yeah, you gotta watch Terminator. Terminator.
Yeah, I need to. And I mean, I saw Indiana Jones for the first time. What was it, like 2 months ago?
What?
Yeah.
And you wanted to be an archaeologist, and you had no idea who Indiana Jones was?
I think it's one of those things where I grew up pretty sheltered. My parents like, oh no, there's Nazis in here. This is too violent for you.
Oh man.
And then like I grew up, and it kind of never got around to it. It's not because I didn't want to. It's just like whatever. Yeah. And yeah, no, it was great. I mean, I'm kind of pissed at my parents for not having shown me that, because I would have loved it as a kid.
Yeah, man.
Like, no, that would have been perfect. That's like such a good movie. And I can obviously it's old, right? It's very an old style of filmmaking. Like you can't make movies like that anymore. But I liked it.
Yeah, it's super solid, amazing stuff, and like that's what I aspire to do. James Cameron is, oh man, James Cameron.
He's never really made a bad movie.
I mean, say what you will about Avatar. It wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't my cup of tea.
I mean, that's fair enough. Yeah. I think I saw Avatar like 3 times in theaters just because like the CGI blew me away. And that was right around the time where I was like studying, like I was in school for 3D, and I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Mm-hmm. So I was more like enamored with the technical side of it, less so the actual film side of it, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah, 100%. How are you looking on your scene right now?
Just now is the time where I need to put some gack in there and just get some stuff and just noise it up, and put some more crap on the ground, and it's that part where I just need more detail. I'm really bummed out that the runtime virtual texturing didn't work. That would have been cool to show off, but yeah, just need to put some stuff and to noise it up.
100%. I'm kind of like at that point right now. I'm gonna go 2 angles on it. I think I'm gonna go to like another shot where you actually see the ground. So I'm gonna need to spice it up a little bit there too.
Nice.
This is really fun doing this with you, man.
Oh yeah, likewise.
You're gonna say
it's always fun to like. No, I was just gonna say, like, what was your I know you had like your fair share of struggle when you were using Unreal for the first time, and what would you say your biggest struggle was?
Knowing what to do to make my scene look photoreal.
Right.
Because there's like a million things that I could do to make it look photoreal. And I had no idea what to do. there, like I had, at first there was zero idea, and then there was some idea, but there was like 20 things that you could do, and it was deep in menus and stuff. So it was just a big mystery. Yep. And then I came across, who was the first channel that like, I started watching some of like the Unreal Engine tutorials and training, and that actually helped a lot. There's a guy, Caves RD, who Matt Newell, who's incredible. Okay. I think I'm gonna have him. We're gonna try and get him on the stream next month.
Okay,
and
cool.
He does these cool like photo experience games in Unreal where everything's photoreal. You're going around with the camera, taking pictures.
Oh, right.
So like I would just try and find things that looked as good as I wanted to make the things that I wanted to make. So the Quixel Rebirth, Memories of Australia, you know. And then I came across your channel, and that was everything that I needed. That was like, finally someone is making the exact tutorials that I need. So if y'all are trying to learn Unreal Engine and want to make your stuff look good, check out William's channel. It's in the description. All the stuff is in the description.
If not that good, he's lying.
Oh man, like you know, you're just being nice. Of course, being nice, and that's why I don't know. It's a good thing. It's a very good thing. But man, I'm rambling. What were you saying? You were saying, what is the one thing that took me forever? Okay.
Yeah, no, just one, because I like getting an idea of like what a lot of newcomers struggle with, just because that just gives me ideas for more content, right? And so like, because like at this point I've been using Unreal for so long that like I don't always see things from the same perspective of a newcomer, right? Mm-hmm. And like things that are, for example, like I have some students now because I'm teaching in an online school called CG Spectrum, and they're basically like a mentorship school, really awesome school. And I have a student, ask me questions like, "Oh man, like that is so basic. I hadn't even considered talking about that in the lesson." Mm-hmm. Like it's so basic to me. It's just second nature, and it's not that they're not idiots for not knowing. It's more the fact that like, hey, it never crossed my mind to talk about that because I don't even think about it myself when I do it. It's just so second nature to me now. So it's really nice when students ask me like, "Hey, like you kind of glossed over this section real fast." I'm like, "Oh man, no, I'm so sorry. You're absolutely right." So it's always nice to get like a fresh perspective on things.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I overthink things a lot of the time, and take things for granted too. Certain pieces of information for granted. So that's a big one for sure.
Yeah, there's so much content out there now, and the problem is it's really hard to sort through the weeds and figure out like what's good and what's bad and what works for you, because a lot of the content like might have been like really good at first. But as time goes, sometimes like the software changes and that content is now outdated or irrelevant or just plain wrong. And it's not that they're a bad content creator. Like this has happened to me on several of my videos where I covered like, hey, this is how you fix XYZ. And then, they fixed the problem or something, or they, did some things were changed, or the console variable changed or something. So it's like, I'm always wondering like, should I go ahead and like delete that video or not? Like it might be helpful for some people. So it's sometimes people are just wrong. That happens, but also sometimes creators are, the program changes. So
yeah, 100%.
Especially with Unreal, where things just change so quickly. It's like ridiculously fast. How fast things change. It's from version to version, they'll make some things way, way, way different, and some just right down to the way that some materials are handled, like doing glass, for example, handling the refraction on glass changed from one version to the next, and so values that were correct in 426 are now totally different in 427. So yeah, it's frustrating sometimes to kind of keep up, and you can't just edit the video. You either have to remove the video and make a new one, or or put a pinned comment or something, or
yeah. I think a pinned comment is probably the way to go, because you put so much effort into the video, you can't just take it down. But
Yeah, no, I guess not. But
unless it's just blatantly wrong, you know. But I've never ran into that, so that's an interesting like concept. That's definitely interesting. Yeah.
mm, mm.
So we probably have 10 more minutes. Let's put 10
Okay.
solid
Cool.
minutes into
Yep.
our scene here,
Cool.
as focused as we can get.
Yep.
And then we'll call it. We'll export, and then we'll hop into the art review and
Sounds good to me.
announce some winners here. Yeah.
Most of my questions are all from students are always like mostly lighting related, because I think lighting is definitely one of the most underrated things ever. Like sometimes I'll have students who
100%.
just kind of gloss over the lighting part of it, and did they finish their model? Did they finish the character, their texture? Did you want to show it up, post it to ArtStation? They just throw a million lights in there, and just it's so it's such a bummer when you see like an amazing model that's just poorly lit. It's such a
Agreed.
letdown because the lighting is so important. It can make the worst good lighting can make the worst model look photoreal, or make the best possible model look like complete trash. It's
100%.
don't underestimate lighting. And what's interesting though is that lighting in real life is exactly the same thing as lighting in CG. It's like the fundamentals of lighting are exactly the same. Like getting soft light, it's only a matter of getting a large light source. That's all it is. Like you see here, like the lighting under my pickup truck is nice and soft. That's just because I have a huge light source above it. The larger your source of light, the softer your shadows will be. And the smaller your light source, let's say just a tiny point light, your shadow will be really hard. And that's why, like in the middle of a midday in LA in a parking lot, the hot summer day, the shadows are very hard, very sharp, because the sun is just a tiny dot in our sky, right? Yes, the sun itself is a large light source, but it's so far away relative to us that it's in the sky, it's just a small dot, right? So whereas an overcast day, shadows are nice and soft because our entire sky is our light source. So that's what causes those soft shadows. So it's just when you understand the concept of how to get those sharp and soft shadows, things really start coming together.
Yeah, agreed. And like the more you study as an artist, the more you study light, the better you're going to be as an artist. And in my last video, I recommended that if you are a 3D artist, even a 2D artist, go out and get into photography a little bit. Take some pictures.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because I know you love shooting photography as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's very helpful.
I would say I'm almost a photographer first and like 3D artist second. Like I love it. And what's nice about photography is that the barrier of entry is really low. Like anyone with a phone can go out and take pictures. I recommend that you go get an actual dedicated camera. It doesn't need to be a super fancy new mirrorless camera, but like get some old DSLR or something and shoot manual. And I promise you, your work as a 3D artist will drastically improve if you pick up photography.
I agree, 100%, man.
It gets you out of your office, so that's one nice thing. It forces you to take a break from the screen, and it allows you to do something different while doing something relatively similar as well. Because at the end of the day, we're creating images, right? And understanding how light works, how composition works, how cameras work, because we're working with cameras right now, directly in Unreal, right? So learning how a camera works in real life will really help you understand how light works in CG and in real life. It all comes together really nicely. Eventually, those puzzle pieces are really just gonna click in your head, and you're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yep, absolutely agreed. It translates perfectly.
What do you shoot with the Sony, right?
Oh yeah, I love Sony. They make good stuff. The
Nice.
A7R2.
Cool.
Same for yourself?
No, I shoot Nikon. So I've been shooting with Nikon D800 for many years, and I just got a Nikon Z6 II recently. So I'm pretty invested in Nikon glass. So staying with Nikon just made sense.
Nice. Yeah, it's like when you get the lenses, it's like you're kind of locked in.
Yeah, pretty much. Especially once you start getting like thousands and thousands of dollars of lenses. Like, yeah, I mean, I could sell them, But I mean, I love my lenses. Like some of these, like my 85 1.4, it's a marvel of engineering. That thing is just creates beautiful. Fine, I can't sell it. It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
All right.
What's going on with the camera? Is it overheating?
Sony. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, don't start. Huh. It's like turning off for some reason.
That's annoying.
Thank you, Soto. We got Soto Monte behind the scenes, talking into, whispering into my ear all the things I need to know. Much appreciated. Thank you, Soto Monte.
Every time I have a stream, something goes wrong.
Every time, man. Like, you can't help it. You really can't help it.
You spend hours like planning for every single contingency, and it still manages to bite you in the ass.
Mm-hmm. Dang, I need some like vents and grills. Like, I could spend a lot more time on this.
So one thing I do recommend to people, especially when you're working with large light sources like you have on my screen here, don't necessarily just use like a big plane with a white emissive texture on it. You want to get a tiny little bit of detail in there. And what I mean by this is, let's take a look at the reflections on this truck. Notice how I've got like a ramp in it, so it's brighter in the middle and it's a bit darker in the outer corners right around here. And that's just because in my texture itself, I'm using a, let me find it here. This is my texture that I'm using on these planes. So it's actually like a picture of a softbox that I took. And so it's a 16-bit image. And so you kind of get like this kind of texture in it. Let me make it full screen to see. And this is what I'm using as my light. So you do get a little bit of variation in there, because light is not just a purely evenly lit white plane, not a pure white plane, right? And so getting a tiny little bit of like, shadow detail, just some slight parts that are brighter, some parts that are darker. That's how a softbox works in real life. Like if you have a fluorescent tube that is behind like like an acrylic white panel like this, you're going to get some hot spots. You're going to get some parts that are brighter than others, some parts that are a little bit darker. It's going to be very uneven. And so that really makes a big difference when you're trying to achieve some photorealism. It's not so noticeable right here, but if you look into reflections and stuff, you kind of get that kind of that unevenness. It's not like perfectly white.
That's a pro tip right there.
It definitely helps a lot, which is getting that, paying attention to, especially when you're working with shiny objects, the reflections become almost more important than the object itself. We were working on a show once where we had a very shiny new Porsche, and it was a full CGI Porsche, and we got the model from the client, and the look that was great. But the problem is, like, it was a close up of the car, but we had to spend like a week or two modeling the entire scene that wasn't even on camera.
Okay.
Because it wasn't even in the frame, because we had to model everything so it would show up in the reflections of the car.
Oh my god, dude, no.
So that's just it's one of those things where, like, with reflections, it's really important that the reflections look good. But yeah, that was a bit of a bummer.
That's
like,
crazy.
We thought like, oh cool, we have the car, it fills in the frame. That's gonna be a very quick and easy shot to light, and it was not.
So you couldn't do an HDRI in that case?
No, because you don't get the same parallax. Because the car was moving.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get those reflections moving and stuff. So an HDRI wouldn't have worked perfectly. No. So we also had, it wasn't a full CG shot. It was a car that we had to implement into a live action plate. So it had to match the environment around it for consistency with the other shots. So
got you.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
What's the most time you ever spent on a shot?
Oof. A one shot?
Yeah.
about a month, maybe.
Yeah.
It depends on the shot. Like it just because sometimes you have like a lot of modeling to do and stuff, and if you have a lot of assets to create, that can be like 6 months plus. But if you already have the assets and you need to integrate something into the plate, that's usually a little bit faster for sure. I've actually almost enjoyed working in film more than in games, because in games, like, the thing that's discouraging about working in games is, you could spend a month working on this amazing character, there's a really nice looking environment, and then at the end of production, programmers come along and like, hey, we need to optimize, we need more frames. And they like make all those textures go from like nice 4K texture to like, oh, this is a 512 texture. It's like, oh, no, what are you doing? Ruining my art.
That's brutal.
It is. It's just heartbreaking. That's whereas in film, it's like, we don't care. You're using like 18 4K UDIMs or whatever. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter as long as it looks good. That's all that counts.
100%.
You haven't worked in games yourself, right? You're mostly in doing CG
all
stuff.
Filming, editing, shooting,
Cool.
VFX, 3D, yeah, all for like live action stuff.
Nice.
Never made a game in my life. Don't really have an intention to make one, though. I like video games are what inspire me to make movies.
Right.
A lot of the time.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll make something one day.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that a lot of people don't always realize.
Yeah.
Games are not just something you can just like, oh, I'm gonna make a video game in 6 months. Like, well, good luck.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, actually, working in Unreal gave me such a better appreciation for games, because I realized all the stuff that literally like is manually placed. Everything is just like manually done. Like, so games like The Last of Us,
Oh man, that's a work of art.
It's insane. Or like Half-Life, or any of those kind of games where like they're all just built out. It's crazy, all the systems that are built out. And I'm sure they're like reusing things and automating stuff, but it's nuts. It's so much work. I understand why they cost $60, like, at least, it's insane.
I mean, it's a how many $billion industry? I'm not sure.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
A lot of billions?
Probably, yeah.
Come on.
All right, probably got like 2 more minutes. Get your shots set up.
Laps. Yep.
$160 billion industry. What does that mean? Does that mean they made $160 billion in their lifetime? What does that mean? Does that mean $160 billion changed hands in the year?
Oh my goodness.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts. There we go. I should probably save. I haven't saved in so long. I'm the worst at saving.
Oh, you don't have autosave?
I do, but autosave it. I haven't used autosave in Unreal that much. Like, it's sometimes I do.
I heard some.
But
I don't know.
Usually I save often.
Yeah.
Enough. But yeah, it's the worst when you were about to save it and it crashes. Like I was in the process of doing it.
Yeah, that's brutal. I don't think I have time to get my second angle. Like, I thought it would be more built out, but this isn't gonna work. I'd have to put more time into it.
Just get a nice big still in there and.
Yeah, I got the one angle that I was going for.
Cool.
So let's get our images exported, and then
Yeah.
Well, actually, here, how about this? Let's each take 2 minutes to just talk about our scene and what we did.
Yep.
And how we did it. How about? Are you ready?
Yeah.
In the hot seat. All right, bam, go for it. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So thanks. Super simple scene. Got a car in there. A bunch of other Quixel Megascans assets. The just kind of the GAC, the pipes and stuff. These are from a pack that I already had downloaded for another project. So that's the beauty of just one of the greatest strengths of Unreal is its marketplace. Is that every single month there's a whole bunch of free assets. Like every month, like I think the first Monday or the first Sunday of every month, they release like anywhere between 5 and 10 free assets on the marketplace. Really awesome to just, like, oh, this is useful. Just download that. Just download a whole bunch of packs and just add it to your project. And that's the beauty of the marketplace, because it's just so all these assets have just been made for Unreal. I don't need to relink textures and materials, or when you buy stuff on TurboSquid, you know how it is. Every time you need to like remake the material or relink the textures and make your new shaders for it. It's a super tedious process, but with the Unreal Marketplace, it's just like you buy it and you add it to your project and it's ready to go. It's really nice for that. So that's basically what I did here. Just had a whole bunch of assets from different packs. Some GAC from, I probably shouldn't have done that. I reset my render. Just some garbage bags and some just stuff on the ground, some rubble and stuff, just scattered all around. And really what sells this scene is just lighting. It's just like one nice, massive lit roof. And sometimes that's all you need. Like lighting, this is kind of this is holding together because of like the cool top-down lighting. I think otherwise it would fall apart. If I were going for a more realistic, like typical parking lot style thing, I think this whole scene would fall apart and wouldn't hold up. But I think it's just kind of cool to have just a little bit of depth of field in there, get some of that soft lighting, and call it a day. Get a cool car with some rim light on it, and done. So like, if I thank you. If I go off and turn off path tracing, this is what it looks like in like real time mode. It looks like trash. It's really bad. So yeah, like that's the thing. The path tracer is it just calculates everything for you. It's super easy. So that's why I love using it. That's one of the main reasons I tend to stick with 427. It's just the path tracer it just works. And if you don't need to have a real time render, go ahead and use the path tracer. It's great for that. So it kind of makes it similar to working in Blender or in any other offline renderer.
Dang, man, so noted. That's insane, the difference on that. Can you do that one more time? The difference between the path tracer and just like the real time?
I'm just going to get a different angle here. So I'm just going to let this render real quick and then switch this to lit mode. So this is, real-time mode. Of course, I can get the real-time mode to look very similar to how it looks with the path tracer. But that wasn't my focus here. I didn't want to spend time doing that. So this is just what I did instead. And you'll see it's not a complex scene. There's nothing really fancy happening here. 4 walls, floor, ceiling, some pipes on the ceiling, and just a doorway over here, and just some crap on the ground, and that's it. The rest, this angle doesn't look as good just because it's not as nice a composition, right? If I go back to where I was, this whole shot works a lot better because there's more stuff happening, right? We got the pillars, we got those leading lines in there. We got a bit more depth to the scene. So this whole shot looks a little bit less terrible, mainly thanks to depth of field, composition, and lighting. And the actual asset work is nothing impressive. The environment work is nothing impressive, but it kind of holds up.
It definitely holds up. That's awesome. So freaking cool.
Thanks. What's yours?
All right, so yeah, my camera is like dying. Maybe I'll
oh no,
let it charge up. I don't know. Does that work like that? Who knows? So yeah. So
that's awesome.
Scene is basically, what is it? F11. Here we go. So this scene is very similar. It's just a lot of top lit, soft lighting.
Can't go wrong with soft lighting. It's just
it's the best.
It's the best.
Yeah, it's the absolute best. I would certainly do a number of things here to a little bit differently. I'm not really the biggest fan of this ladder asset right now. I wanted to throw in some like floodlights here on the side, but this is all like my concrete texture pack that I put together. So I'm excited that that's working. I just put a bunch of cubes in my scene and threw down the texture.
Oh, is that what your sky is? Is your sky just cubes, or is that like fog or something you put in there?
I do have exponential height fog in the scene.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so that's set to like 0.3. And I just have this infinite extent going up. Some sort of pathway here. This is heavily inspired by, his name's Joe Nishizawa. He's a photographer in Japan, and he takes photos of like sewer systems and all this stuff. And there's a shot very similar to this of them lowering a truck into a sewer system, and it looks it looks like this. And yeah, of course, got depth of field, little chain in the foreground, some pipes that probably need some more modeling, and but I'm happy with it. I like it. I think it's really fun to just like place these pieces in here. And is my screen frozen?
I kind of getting some Dune vibes here.
Oh yeah, just saw that, so I'm like all amped on that, of course.
Yeah, kind of got those earthy tones there.
Yeah,
lighting works well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's it. Let me see if I can get my camera going here, and then we'll go over the weekly art review, or the weekly, so many words at this point. I'm making half sense. The weekly challenge winners. We got 5 winners to announce. Let's see if my camera can survive all all of these challenge winners. Okay, so how are we gonna do this? This is the first time that I'm streaming with Sotomonte on my other computer. So here's what we're gonna do. Soto, I know you can hear me. We're gonna switch over here to art review, and we're gonna essentially go through these and announce the winners. The prompt was minimal. So how am I gonna do this? Basically, Sotomonte, once I go on to the next piece of art, you're gonna need to uncheck the art itself so that the name remains there, and then I can pull up the second piece of art, if that makes sense. Yeah. All right, so here we go. The first winner of the weekly challenge, minimal, is Weekend, with this awesome piece here, little smokestack situation. Very beautiful render. You got the birds in there. It's very subtle, very minimal. I love the colors. William, can you see that?
Yeah, I can. Looks great. First I thought it was the photo.
Yeah, it looks great. It's super solid. Probably did a little comping of the Steam in Photoshop or After Effects or something, I would assume, but that looks darn good. So Weekend, congratulations on winning the challenge winner role this week. You got the whole Discord server opening up for you. Very good stuff. Congratulations. All right, so the next winner, we got 5 to announce. So Sotomonte, if you could just hide that picture, and then yeah, exactly. Perfect. The next winner is Visual. One of the mods, actually, but there is no rule against mods winning challenges if their art is sick. It all comes down to the art here. And I absolutely love what you put together here. Very, very beautiful. Very simple. I love the cutout legs and arms and stuff, and the color palette. The lighting, everything's great.
Yeah, and it's awesome. I love the stylized look. I'm a sucker for stylized stuff. Like, we see so much photoreal stuff every day. We're like inundated with it, and of course, don't get me wrong, I love that stuff too. But it's really nice to see some fresh stylized stuff in there as well.
Absolutely, yeah, super cool. Congrats, Visual. Good stuff as always. Moving on, number 3, we have Something Stupid. Now, I don't know if that's your Discord name or if that's just what you named your piece of art, but you gotta believe in yourself a little bit more. I think this is really nice. It looks freaking great. I love the painterly vibes to it. It's very simple. And it's just playing with light. Like you were saying, William, it's all about the lighting.
It is 100%. Like you don't even need the model to be all that good when you've got good lighting to make up for it.
100%. I think it's a really solid example of that right here. Very, very simple, very subtle, and it looks awesome.
Super soft. I like it.
Yeah. So congratulations, you got the challenge winner role this week. Hang on to it. Keep doing the challenges. And you might get it next week. Number 4, we have One Dead Duck, and this was done in Unreal Engine. One Dead Duck just started using Unreal, I think Unreal 5. Yeah, and he's going to town. He wins these a lot. And I freaking dig the composition. It's an original piece. Very similar to what we were doing. It has the industrial vibe, the concrete and everything. But what do you think of this one?
Like you said, the competition is top notch. I think this would make a great photo, let alone a render. If I didn't know any better, like if you were like looking at this like really low res from afar, like I would on someone's wall, like that would be a beautiful photograph. Belongs in a museum. It's really rare to see CG artists that have such a good knack for photography as well. There's a lot of great CG artists out there, but it's really rare to see people mix those two art forms together.
Yeah, agreed. And that's what I love so much about it is like, how close can you get it to look like a photo? Can you trick people with it?
And it's still stylized somewhat, obviously, but I still love like the composition is so strong here that it could be a photo. It looks wonderful. I absolutely love this. I'm not even normally a fan of black and white images, but this is great.
Yep, totally works. Do you know Fan Ho, the photographer?
No, I don't.
Oh man, yeah, definitely check out Fan Ho. He's he's a Chinese photographer. I think he's passed at this point, but he's famous for his like black and white photos of Hong Kong. Okay, they're just insane. Which this is probably inspired by. I would have to guess. But okay, moving on to the last one. One Dead Duck. Congratulations once again. You got the challenge winner role. Number 5. Our last challenge winner, and then we have some honorable mentions to get into because I think it's worth it. Y'all do good stuff, and I want to make sure you guys get the credit for it. So number 5, we have Mitch with this one. Went for a different approach to the minimal prompt. I love this. It is very clean, very very clean. I love the symmetrical framing. The colors are beautiful. I'm such a huge fan of this.
It's so weird, but I dig it. It's definitely like it's not something you'd see every day. It's quite original.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of like PSA or some weird like no smoking thing or
no, definitely. I'm a fan. What is this rendered in?
Mitch, I don't know. Soto, do you know? Is it Blender? I think it's Blender.
Doesn't really matter. I think it looked great.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. That's a great point. It doesn't really matter. But super solid. So congrats to the challenge winners. We just have a couple honorable mentions. So Sotomonte, I'm gonna need you to keep that up there, and then turn off that piece of art, and then you'll have to toggle them on because we basically have Sotomonte parsec into my other computer that I can't see right now. And if you could just tell me the names of the people so I can relay them as well, because I can't see them. The screen's too tiny. Blendarian. Yeah, okay. So we got this one here looking very nice. You've seen these before, like your classic simple minimalistic bedroom lit really nicely. Looks like you can touch it. Very beautiful, very good stuff. Shout outs to you. Next up. Who is it? DG Abs? This one is just darn satisfying.
Oh, that would make such a good NFT.
Yeah. I want this on my desktop. I feel like the one thing with this one though is like I would love to see the water just a bit more vibrant and blue, and then like if like some green moss collected on these little like pyramids or something, that'd be pretty sweet. But I dig it.
Oh yeah, no, I love I love those satisfying simulations that you see a
Yeah.
lot of these days. Ah, it's so good.
Yeah, you just go down the rabbit hole with that one. Really nice stuff, DigiAbs. Congrats. Next up, Frizzler. Is that right? Yeah. So this one's really cool. I love the idea. If you can't guess already, it's gonna form something. It's a low poly face.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. The render quality is fantastic. My only gripe with it is the handheld camera motion. It's just a little much. But it is hand animated, which is pretty sweet. Just a little too shaky for me. I think you can tone it down just a little bit, but this is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Great idea. Great render.
I like it.
Yeah. Jack the Hack is next. Very nice. Reminds me of The Thing. Have you seen The Thing, William?
I have not, actually. Shame on me, I know.
All good.
I'll add it to the list.
Yeah, it's amazing. Good stuff. But yeah, this is very, very subtle. I dig it. Low poly character. Went with like the different approach to minimal. So it's the minimal polys. I love it.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Jack. Who's next? Joel, yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, very peaceful.
I could see myself sitting in the living room there with a hot cup of coffee.
100%. Maybe a little telescope looking at the ocean.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, those toned. I love the colors. The great color palette right there.
100%. Good design too. Nice silhouettes.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Good stuff, Joel.
And like that focus rack is great.
Yeah.
Focus ramp, I mean.
Ooh, we got our very own MDK up next. I love this one. This one came very, very close to winning. This is so freaking cool to me.
Yeah, that's another satisfying one.
Yep, and it loops too.
No, does it?
Yeah. It's such a yeah, dude. Your reaction.
It's so good. I love it.
It's seamless. It's freaking perfect.
Man, I think my mind would break trying to make something seamless like that. I'd be like, but wait, how? But that, what?
Yep. Very, very.
I'd have to
stuff.
try. I've never tried making a seamless animation like that before, but it's
There's,
probably not as bad as it seems. But
Gavin Shapiro he's the guy who does like those penguins, the looping like penguin animations,
right.
and flamingos. Man, he has a great it's an hour-long talk on Maxon's like 3D motion show, and I think it was like last year or something.
Okay.
And he goes into how he does his loops, and I learned so much from that. He really makes it seem
cool.
simple.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. What was it called again?
His name's Gavin Shapiro, and it's the
Okay.
Maxon 3D motion show.
3D motion. Got it.
Yeah, and anyone can learn from that. Doesn't matter what program you're using.
Cool.
Up next, what do we got? Obliviart. Very dark.
No kidding. Oh, that's my kind of humor. I like it.
Yeah, leave the job, quit the job, and just walk down as far as you can go. That's rough. God. I dig it though. It's clean. Looks nice.
I dig it.
Yeah, good stuff, Obliviart. Who do we got next? Pogipski or something like that. Very simple. Very, very simple. And apologies on the names here. I just can't see. It's so tiny. I'm like, we're figuring out the workflow. But this is beautiful. I love the very simple setup here, but it comes down to that lighting.
Yeah. It's always lighting. Every time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Beautiful, beautiful. Catching the
that,
smoke
that
too.
that subtle rim light there really makes the whole thing.
100%. Very, very good stuff. Next up, I think there's two more. Who's this by? Slate?
Oh, I like this. I want this on my desk.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, the light again, the lighting, composition, framing, top notch. Very, very good stuff, Slate. Congrats for the honorable mention. And I think, is this the last one? Ajinka Z? Friggin' awesome. You know, totally looks like a poster. I'd put this up on my wall. Very beautiful. Love the colors on this.
Yeah, same thing. I totally agree. Again, it's all fitting composition.
Yep.
We've said it like 20 times throughout the stream, but it's just a testament to how powerful it can be.
Absolutely. So congrats to everybody. Congrats to the challenge winners. This week's theme is industrial. So you have until, I believe, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time to get your submissions in. It's all on the Discord. The link is in the description. William, dude, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Pleasure mine. It's an honor to be here.
We did it.
I love everything you kind of put together. Like the community you built over time. It's nothing short of inspirational for other creators like myself. It's people who are new to YouTube in general. Like I think you're one of the people that a lot of other creators that I know kind of look up to. Just on YouTube in this industry. So keep up what you're doing.
Much appreciated, man. And if people want to learn Unreal Engine, please go to William's channel. The link is in the description. We also have his Instagram, Twitter. We got your ArtStation in there too. Go check him out. I know y'all become a fan immediately. I know we got a lot of fans up in here as well. So we got to have you back at some point. Thank you for taking the time. We went for, I don't know, 3.5 hours or so.
Yeah, something like that. I kind of lost track of time. Yeah, no, it's all good. That's the best. That's a good kind of losing track of time. I like it.
Absolutely, man. All right. Well, hey, you have a good evening.
Thanks. Yeah. And you enjoy your rock climbing today.
Oh my God, I can't wait. It's gonna be good. All right. Peace out, y'all.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a nice day.
Later.